Tonight, my friends, we drift back through the soft mists of time, gently unfurling the very first pages of human existence, to ponder a question as ancient as our breath itself. How did people navigate the delicate dance of health and illness long before the gleaming instruments and sophisticated sciences of today? It is a journey into a world less defined by microscopes and chemical compounds, and more by the whispers of the wind, the cycles of the moon, and the profound, humbling mysteries of life itself. So, find that comfortable spot, perhaps dim the lights a little, and allow your thoughts to unfurl with the serene storytelling to come. If, by the end, you find yourself pleasantly lulled and gently informed, a quiet little click on the like or subscribe buttons would be a lovely gesture. We begin our exploration in a time when the world was vast and untamed, and humanity, though resourceful, stood in awe of forces far grander than themselves. Without the intricate knowledge of anatomy or the burgeoning understanding of germ theory, the concept of health was woven into a rich tapestry of observation, intuition, and a deep reverence for the natural world. Illness, when it descended, was not merely a physical affliction, it was often a sign, a message, or sometimes, a profound disruption in a delicate cosmic balance. Imagine, if you will, our early ancestors gathered around a flickering fire, the shadows dancing on cave walls, their minds attempting to decipher the sudden onset of a fever, the persistent ache in a limb, or the mysterious wasting of a beloved elder. These weren't medical puzzles in the way we conceive them now. They were often interwoven with the very fabric of their spiritual beliefs, their understanding of the world's unseen energies, and the powerful, sometimes capricious, will of spirits or deities. In these nascent stages of human thought, the body was not seen as a purely mechanical entity, but rather as an intricate vessel, susceptible to influences both tangible and intangible. A sudden illness might be attributed to the displeasure of an ancestral spirit, a sorcerer's malevolent gaze, or perhaps a transgression against the sacred order of nature. The wind, carrying seeds on one day and chilling sickness on another, might be seen as a messenger, benign or otherwise. The sun, life-giving in its warmth, could also scorch the land and bring fevers. This intimate connection with natural phenomena meant that health was not simply the absence of disease, but a state of harmonious alignment with these powerful, encompassing forces. Their vocabulary for health and sickness was less precise, yet deeply experiential. Feeling strong might describe a robust constitution, while feeling weak could encompass a multitude of ailments. The distinction between physical and mental well-being was often blurred, for how could one separate the body from the spirit that animated it? A troubled mind, laden with grief or fear, was understood to manifest in physical ways, and conversely, bodily discomfort could weigh heavily upon the spirit. This holistic view, though lacking modern scientific underpinnings, possessed a profound, intuitive wisdom, recognizing the interconnectedness of all aspects of human experience. Their observations, though lacking scientific rigor, were often remarkably astute. They noticed patterns: certain plants alleviated pain, others cleansed wounds, and still others could induce sleep or calm anxiety. These empirical findings, gathered over generations and passed down through oral traditions, formed the bedrock of their early healing practices. The knowledge wasn't codified in textbooks, but rather held within the collective memory of the community, embodied by the elders, the shamans, or the wise women who had watched and learned from nature's subtle lessons. The act of healing, therefore, was not simply about administering a remedy. It was a complex ritual, often involving incantations, prayers, offerings, and the symbolic use of natural elements. A shaman, acting as an intermediary between the human and spiritual realms, might undertake a journey into the spirit world to retrieve a lost soul, or to appease an angry deity believed to be causing the illness. The healing ceremony itself was as much a part of the cure as any herbal concoction, offering comfort, reassurance, and a powerful psychological effect upon the sufferer and the community. This communal involvement in healing reinforced social bonds and provided a sense of shared purpose in confronting the mysterious challenges of illness. Water, in its various forms, held particular significance. A refreshing drink could quench a fever, a cleansing bath could soothe aching muscles, and the flowing current of a river might be seen as purifying, washing away impurities both physical and spiritual. The warmth of fire, too, was not just for cooking or keeping warm, it was a symbol of life, a source of comfort, and in some traditions, a purification agent. The smoke from certain burning herbs, carried on the air, was believed to cleanse spaces and people, driving away malevolent influences. Even the simple act of touching, the comforting hand of a mother, the reassuring embrace of a family member, carried a profound healing energy. This fundamental human connection, this empathy and care, was perhaps the strongest medicine, providing solace in times of vulnerability and fear. It reminded the sick individual that they were not alone, that their suffering was acknowledged and shared within the protective embrace of their community. In this beautiful simplicity, the explanation for disease often centered on the idea of balance. When the body, mind, or spirit fell out of harmony with the natural world, or with the unseen forces governing existence, illness could arise. The role of the healer was to restore this equilibrium, to realign the individual with the benevolent energies of the cosmos. This could involve physical interventions, yes, but just as importantly, it involved spiritual guidance, psychological support, and a profound respect for the individual's place within the intricate web of life. So, as we gently close this initial chapter, we begin to appreciate that before the dawn of modern science, humanity grappled with health and illness not just with their hands and minds, but with their hearts and spirits. They observed, they theorized, and they sought meaning in the inexplicable. Their approaches, deeply intertwined with their worldview and spiritual convictions, laid the very first, foundational stones of human medicine, driven by an enduring quest for well-being that resonates even in our technologically advanced age. Tonight, we journey into a time before the whirring of machines and the bright glare of screens. We gently drift back to an era where the rhythm of life was dictated by the sun and the seasons, where sustenance was found in the earth and the wild, an era before the complexities of modern medicine. Perhaps you might wish to lean back into your most comfortable chair, or perhaps settle into a plush pillow as the evening draws to a close, and allow the gentle flow of these words to carry you softly into a state of deep tranquility. If, as our journey concludes tonight, you find a sense of peace and a renewed calm, a gentle tap of the like button, or perhaps subscribing for future voyages, would be a most welcome gesture, as it helps our quiet community to grow. As we continue our exploration into the ways people sustained their health in antiquity, we turn our attention now to the very foundation of their daily lives, the foods that nourish them. It is a slow, unhurried contemplation of dietary staples and the profound, often intuitive, understanding of nutrition that ancient populations held, an understanding deeply rooted in their immediate environment and the fertile ground beneath their feet. Imagine the dawn of a new day, not with the aroma of roasting coffee beans, but with the earthy scent of grain being prepared, perhaps stone-ground into flour. For countless civilizations, from the earliest agrarian societies in the Fertile Crescent to the bustling marketplaces of ancient Rome, whole grains formed the bedrock of their diet. Think of barley, humble yet incredibly resilient, a staple grain that fueled many early societies. Its chewy texture, its nutty flavor, provided a sustained release of energy, unlike the fleeting rush of refined sugars. Or consider wheat, a grain that, in its whole form, offered a bounty of nutrients. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, were master bakers, creating a diverse array of breads from whole wheat, sometimes enriched with honey or dates, forming the core of their daily sustenance. These were not the airy, white loaves we often see today, but dense, substantial breads, each bite packed with fiber, B vitamins, and essential minerals. They understood, instinctively perhaps, the wisdom of consuming the entire kernel, the bran and germ included, long before modern science articulated the complexities of dietary fiber or micronutrients. Rice, too, played an indispensable role, particularly in Asia. The painstaking cultivation of rice paddies, a monumental achievement of human ingenuity, provided a staple that could sustain vast populations. Brown rice, with its outer layers intact, was the norm, offering a nutritional profile far superior to the polished white rice that became more prevalent with technological advancements and altered aesthetic preferences. The simple act of boiling rice, or perhaps steaming it with a few herbs, became a daily ritual, a quiet assurance of nourishment for millions. Beyond these foundational grains, the ancient world thrived on the abundance of seasonal fruits. Picture luscious figs ripening under the Mediterranean sun, their sweetness and natural delight. Or imagine wild berries, bursting with flavor, gathered from woodland edges in northern climes, their vibrant colors signaling a wealth of antioxidants. There was no concept of year-round availability for every fruit. Instead, communities eagerly awaited the arrival of each season's offerings. The short, sweet season of cherries, followed by the juicy burst of plums, then the heavier, more substantial apples of autumn. This natural cycle not only imposed a certain discipline but also ensured a diverse intake of vitamins and minerals. The sugars consumed were often in their natural form, encased within fiber-rich fruits, metabolized slowly, providing sustained energy without the sharp spikes and crashes associated with modern processed sugars. Consider the role of the natural environment in shaping these diets. Fields and forests, rivers and seas, all offered their bounty. It was a diet dictated by what could be grown, hunted, or gathered locally. There was a profound connection to the land, an understanding of its rhythms and its gifts. And then, there was the protein source that came from the wild, the sustenance provided by the chase. Wild game, a lean and nutrient-dense food, offered essential amino acids and healthy fats. Deer, wild boar, rabbit, and an array of fowl were hunted, their meat carefully prepared, often roasted over open fires, providing not only nourishment but also a sense of community and shared effort. Fish, too, from rivers and oceans, provided another vital source of protein, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, long before we understood their profound benefits for cardiovascular health and brain function. Imagine the patient casting of nets, the tranquil waiting by the river's edge, the satisfaction of a successful catch. These proteins were complemented by legumes, lentils, chickpeas, and beans, providing further plant-based protein and fiber, a crucial cornerstone for many cultures. What is strikingly absent from this ancient diet, of course, are the processed foods that have become so ubiquitous in our modern world. There were no highly refined sugars, no trans fats, no artificial preservatives, and no complex emulsifiers. The concept of fast food was entirely non-existent. Food preparation was often a slower, more deliberate process, employing methods like fermentation, drying, and salting to preserve harvests for leaner times. These methods, far from being detrimental, often enhance the nutritional profile of the food, increasing digestibility, or creating beneficial microorganisms. Think of sourdough bread, a prime example of fermentation, which not only preserves bread but also makes the nutrients in the grains more bioavailable. Or imagine the simplicity of dried fruits, concentrated sources of energy and sweetness, preserved without chemical intervention. The ancient diet, in its essence, was incredibly simple, yet profoundly complex in its ecological intelligence. It was a diet of whole, unprocessed ingredients, dictated by geography and season. There was an inherent balance, a natural diversity, that provided a broad spectrum of nutrients without conscious effort or intricate nutritional labels. The act of eating was deeply integrated with the act of living, connected to the land, the labor, and the cycles of nature. It was a diet that fostered robust health, supporting strong physical constitutions, underpinning societies that thrived for centuries without the benefit of our modern pharmaceutical remedies. This quiet wisdom of eating, inherited from countless generations, offers a gentle reflection on our own dietary choices today, perhaps encouraging a moment of calm contemplation about the gifts of the earth and the pure, simple nourishment they can provide. Tonight, as the world outside softens into twilight's embrace, we shall continue our journey into the quiet rhythms of the past, exploring how bodies were cared for long before the advent of today's scientific marvels. Settle deeper into your comfort, perhaps dimming your lights a little more, allowing the gentle hush of history to envelop you. If, by the end of our time together, you find a measure of peace in these stories, a soft tap on the like button or a quiet subscription would be a lovely gesture. Our exploration now carries us across vast oceans and ancient lands, into the very heart of how communities worldwide understood health and healing, drawing sustenance and solace from the earth itself. It is a journey into the intricate tapestry of herbal medicine, a tradition woven through millennia, a silent testament to human ingenuity and observation. From the verdant rainforests to the arid deserts, from the snow-capped mountains to the sun-drenched plains, plants have always been humanity's most immediate, and often most profound, pharmacy. Consider, if you will, the bustling markets of ancient China, where row upon row of dried herbs, roots, and flowers would have been meticulously arranged. For thousands of years, traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, codified an elaborate system of understanding the body's energy, or qi, and its balance. Practitioners observed that certain plants exhibited particular properties, affecting specific organs or channels within the body. The licorice root, for instance, a humble plant with a distinctly sweet flavor, was not merely a confectionery item. It was carefully noted for its harmonizing properties, often used to blend and enhance the effects of other herbs, offering a soothing presence to the stomach and aiding in detoxification. Its calming influence was also recognized for coughs and sore throats, stemming from a meticulous observation of its impact on the respiratory system. Similarly, the ginseng root, with its distinctive human-like shape, became a revered tonic. Different species, whether Panax ginseng from Korea or Panax quinquefolius from North America, were esteemed for their adaptogenic qualities. This meant they were believed to help the body adapt to stress, boosting energy when flagging and promoting calm when agitated. The knowledge of where to harvest it, how to prepare it, and when to administer it was passed down through generations, often through apprenticeship, ensuring a consistent understanding of its subtle yet powerful effects. Each wrinkle and fibrous strand of the root was considered, each preparation, whether steeped in tea or powdered into a compound, was applied with careful intention. Journeying westward, let us pause in the sun-drenched lands of the Mediterranean and Europe, where the foundations of Western herbalism were laid. The humble chamomile flower, with its small, daisy-like blossoms, was and continues to be, a beloved remedy. Its gentle, apple-scented aroma bespoke its calming nature. Observations dating back to ancient Egypt and Rome documented its use for digestive upsets, promoting restful sleep, and easing anxious states. Brewed as a warm infusion, a simple chamomile tea became a comforting ritual, a gentle balm for frayed nerves, a testament to its soothing properties. The systematic collection of this knowledge, from the writings of Dioscorides in his De Materia Medica to the household remedies passed from mother to daughter, formed a continuous chain of understanding. Another ubiquitous plant in this region was the elderberry. From its delicate white flowers to its dark, ripe berries, every part was considered. The flowers were known for their sudorific properties, meaning they promoted sweating, and were often used in teas to break fevers or relieve cold symptoms. The berries, rich in vibrant pigments, were observed to possess qualities that supported the immune system, particularly during winter months. This was not a random application, but an understanding gleaned from centuries of seasonal observation, of how the body responded to different plant compounds during periods of illness. These traditional uses, often accompanied by specific harvesting times and drying methods, underscored a deep ecological wisdom. Now, let us venture to the vast continent of Africa, where indigenous communities developed intricate systems of herbal medicine, deeply intertwined with their spiritual and cultural practices. The devil's claw, or Harpagophytum procumbens, growing in the arid regions of southern Africa, is one striking example. Its distinctive fruit, with its hook-like projections, hinted at its name. Local healers, through generations of keen observation, recognized its powerful anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. It was extensively used to alleviate pain from arthritis, rheumatism, and various musculoskeletal complaints. The preparation involved drying and grinding its tuberous roots, often then brewed into a decoction. The efficacy of this plant was so well established that it eventually garnered interest from Western science, affirming the profound knowledge held by these traditional healers. In the Americas, indigenous tribes developed their own comprehensive pharmacopoeias. The echinacea plant, with its vibrant, purple coneflowers, was a staple among many Native American groups, particularly in the Great Plains region. They observed its efficacy in treating various infections, particularly upper respiratory ailments, and used it for wound healing. The root was often chewed or brewed into a tea, believed to bolster the body's natural defenses. The precise species of echinacea, the specific parts of the plant used, whether root, leaf, or flower, and the timing of harvest were all critical details passed down through meticulous oral tradition and practical demonstration. This continuity ensured that each generation inherited a robust body of knowledge that was both practical and respectful of the natural world. Another remarkable plant from the Americas is the willow tree. Indigenous medicine recognized its pain-relieving and fever-reducing properties long before the synthesis of aspirin. The inner bark of the willow, particularly the white willow, was observed to possess these potent qualities. Communities would strip the bark, dry it, and then steep it into a tea to alleviate headaches, fevers, and general aches and pains. This systematic application, noting which type of willow was most effective and how to prepare it for optimal results, demonstrates a profound understanding of plant chemistry through empirical observation. The active compound, salicin, found in willow bark, eventually paved the way for modern pharmaceutical developments, highlighting the ancient wisdom embedded in these practices. The common thread weaving through all these global traditions is not merely the use of plants, but the development of systematic knowledge. It was not a random guessing game, but rather an iterative process of observation, experimentation, replication, and the careful transmission of findings. Healers and shamans, village elders, and wise women dedicated their lives to understanding the intricate relationship between the Earth's flora and human well-being. They meticulously documented, through memory and later through scripts, the specific parts of a plant to use: the root, the leaf, the flower, the bark. They understood the best time for harvest, whether at dawn, under a full moon, or in a particular season, recognizing that the plant's chemical composition could vary. They perfected methods of preparation, whether dried, steeped, decocted, powdered, or made into poultices, each method designed to extract the most potent healing properties. This systematic knowledge also extended to understanding dosages and contraindications, recognizing that even beneficial plants could be harmful if misused. They understood the concept of synergy, where combining certain herbs could enhance their effects or mitigate unwanted side effects. This was holistic care, where the plant was seen not just as a collection of chemicals, but as an integral part of a larger ecosystem, its medicine intrinsically linked to its context. The profound respect for nature inherent in these practices also meant a deep understanding of sustainability. Harvesting was often done with reverence, ensuring the continued abundance of these precious plant allies. This was a relationship of reciprocity, where humanity took from the earth, but also honored and protected it. As we reflect on these global traditions, we are reminded of the enduring power of observation, the wisdom accumulated over countless generations, and the deep, abiding connection that humanity once shared, and perhaps still can share, with the healing embrace of the natural world. Let these stories continue to gently guide you deeper into your rest. Tonight, as the world outside settles into its quiet repose, we drift back to a time when the intricacies of health were not yet fully understood, yet the wisdom of generations guided daily practices. Close your eyes if you wish, or let your gaze soften, allowing the words to gently wash over you, carrying you to distant eras and forgotten routines. Find your most comfortable position, perhaps drawing a soft blanket closer, dimming the lights until only a faint glow remains. If by the end of our journey tonight, you find a sense of peace, a quiet calm descending upon you, a gentle nod of appreciation through a soft like or a subscription would be a lovely gesture. Tonight, our journey through the annals of health leads us gently into the fascinating domain of hygiene, those quiet, often uncelebrated practices that, long before the advent of modern medicine, played an unassumingly pivotal role in shielding communities from the unseen threats of disease. It is a narrative woven with surprising foresight and a deep, intuitive understanding of the fragile balance between body and environment. Let us first immerse ourselves in the grandeur and remarkable sophistication of ancient Rome, a civilization renowned for its engineering prowess and its profound appreciation for public life. Here, the concept of hygiene was elevated to an art form, manifested most famously in the magnificent Roman baths. These were not merely places for cleansing the body, they were vibrant social hubs, architectural marvels, and integral components of daily life, accessible to nearly all strata of society. Imagine, if you will, the gentle steam rising, curling lazily across vast marble halls, sunlight filtering through high-arched windows, illuminating the tranquil waters of the frigidarium, the cool plunge pool, where one might refresh oneself after a session in the warmer chambers. The experience of the Roman bath was a meticulously choreographed ritual. One would begin in the apodyterium, the changing room, where clothes were shed and preparations for the subsequent stages were made. From there, the warmth would gradually increase, moving through the tepidarium, a warm room designed for gentle perspiration, preparing the body for the more intense heat of the caldarium. Here, in the caldarium, with its hot pool and intense steam, pores would open, and impurities would be sweated away. A fine oil, often perfumed, might be applied to the skin, which would then be scraped off with a strigil, a curved metal tool, carrying with it dirt, sweat, and dead skin cells. This act, while perhaps seeming somewhat coarse to our modern sensibilities, was an effective method of cleansing and exfoliation, leaving the skin feeling remarkably smooth and revitalized. Beyond personal cleansing, the Roman baths were also centers for exercise, with gymnasia attached, and for intellectual pursuit, offering spaces for quiet contemplation and lively discussion. They were equipped with intricate heating systems, often employing hypocausts, underfloor furnaces that circulated hot air beneath the floors and through the walls, ensuring a consistent, enveloping warmth. This commitment to public sanitation extended further, with sophisticated aqueducts bringing fresh water from distant sources into the cities, and extensive sewer systems, like the famous Cloaca Maxima, carrying waste away, preventing the accumulation of refuse and the spread of disease that so often plagued less organized settlements. This systematic approach to water management, both for supply and disposal, was a cornerstone of Roman public health, a silent guardian against countless outbreaks. Now, let us journey far from the bustling Roman cities, across oceans and continents, to explore the often less documented, yet equally profound, hygiene practices of indigenous cultures around the world. These communities, living in intimate communion with their natural surroundings, developed intricate systems of cleanliness rooted in respect for the environment and a deep understanding of natural resources. Consider, for instance, the traditional sweat lodges and purification ceremonies found among many Native American tribes. These structures, often simple yet profoundly effective, harness the power of heat and steam, much like the Roman baths, but with a deeper spiritual resonance. Stones, heated over a fire outside the lodge, would be brought inside and placed in a central pit. Water, often infused with sacred herbs, would be poured over these hot stones, creating a thick, cleansing steam. Participants would enter the darkened lodge, engaging in a process of physical and spiritual purification. The intense heat would induce profuse sweating, cleansing the body of toxins, while the shared experience, often accompanied by chanting and prayer, fostered a sense of communal well-being and spiritual renewal. This was holistic hygiene, caring for the body, mind, and spirit in unison. Further demonstrating indigenous ingenuity, many communities understood the critical importance of clean water sources. Villages were often strategically located near springs or rivers known for their pristine water. Beyond location, certain practices were employed to maintain water purity. Some tribes would use specific plants with known antimicrobial properties to line collection vessels or to filter water. The knowledge of which plants possessed such properties was passed down through generations, a vital aspect of traditional ecological wisdom. Sanitation practices were also thoughtfully integrated into daily life. In many traditional African settlements, for example, waste disposal was managed through carefully designated areas away from living quarters and water sources. Composting human and animal waste for agricultural purposes was a widespread practice, not only managing waste but also enriching the soil, demonstrating an elegant, cyclical approach to resource management. The use of ash, a natural disinfectant and deodorizer, was also common for cleaning and sanitation in various parts of the world, from domestic settings to latrines. In ancient Mesoamerican civilizations, like the Maya and Aztec, advanced plumbing systems, including sophisticated aqueducts and drainage networks, are testament to their understanding of hygiene. The Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, built on an island, was a marvel of urban planning, with canals serving as roadways and a meticulous system for waste disposal that kept the city remarkably clean. Public latrines, supplied with fresh water, were also a feature of these societies, reflecting a communal commitment to sanitation. The practice of frequent bathing, often in temazcal, sweat houses, was also a deeply ingrained cultural and hygienic habit among these peoples. The thread that connects these disparate cultures and their hygiene practices, from the grandeur of Roman baths to the sacred simplicity of indigenous sweat lodges, from intricate aqueducts to careful waste management, is the often underestimated, yet fundamentally crucial, role cleanliness played in preventing disease. Before microscopes revealed the existence of pathogens, before antibiotics offered powerful cures, humanity, through observation and intuitive wisdom, understood that a clean body, a clean home, and a clean environment were strong bulwarks against illness. The absence of foul odors, the removal of visible dirt, the flow of fresh water, and the systematic disposal of waste were not merely aesthetic preferences. They were, in essence, early forms of epidemiology, practices that inadvertently but effectively broke the chains of transmission for countless diseases. The reduction of insect vectors, the prevention of fecal-oral contamination, and the simple act of washing away microbes were all silent victories against the forces of illness. It is a humbling reminder that sometimes, the most profound wisdom lies not in complex interventions, but in the diligent adherence to simple, time-honored routines. Tonight, as you settle deeper into your rest, perhaps you might reflect on the enduring legacy of these ancient practices, how the simple act of cleansing has, for millennia, been a silent sentinel protecting human health, binding us to those who came before, in a shared understanding of well-being. May your dreams be as clear and refreshing as the waters that flowed through ancient aqueducts, carrying you gently into the peaceful slumber you deserve. Tonight, as we continue our gentle journey through the tapestry of health before modern medicine, let us consider the rhythms of the body, and the quiet strength found in movement. Perhaps you might wish to dim your lights a little further, or simply settle deeper into your chosen comfort, letting the day's edges soften around you as we explore the very physical nature of life in times past. If at the end of our tranquil exploration you find a sense of peace, a soft whisper of contentment, a gentle tap upon the like or subscribe button would be a most welcome, quiet gesture. In societies that predated the hum of machinery and the convenience of automation, life itself was a constant, understated act of exercise. The very architecture of daily existence necessitated a physicality that we, in our more sedentary age, often have to consciously seek. Imagine, if you will, the early farmer, not merely tending to a field, but intimately interacting with the earth. Each turn of the soil with a rudimentary spade, each haul of water from a well, each stoop to sow, or bend to harvest, represented a series of movements that engaged the core, strengthened the limbs, and maintained a suppleness rarely achieved without intentional effort today. The farmer's walk to the fields, often miles in length, was not a leisurely stroll for pleasure, but a purposeful journey, contributing to cardiovascular health without a single thought of a dedicated workout. Their diet, often rich in whole grains and fresh produce, combined with this consistent, moderate physical labor, formed a powerful foundation for enduring health. The hunter, earlier still, embodied a different kind of physicality, one demanding agility, endurance, and bursts of explosive power. Tracking prey across varied terrain, often for days, involved long periods of steady walking or running, interspersed with moments of intense exertion. Climbing over fallen logs, navigating rocky outcrops, or silently traversing dense forest required a fine-tuned balance and muscular control. The act of drawing a bow, or throwing a spear, called upon the strength of the upper body and a precise coordination of movement. This was not merely about survival, it was a constant, inherent training regimen, honing the body into an efficient, resilient instrument. The mental focus required for the hunt, the patience, and the rapid decision-making, also contributed to a holistic well-being, where mind and body were inextricably linked. Even within the village or tribal setting, domestic life was far from sedentary. The preparation of food involved grinding grains by hand using heavy stones, a repetitive motion strengthening the arms and shoulders. Fetching firewood from the surrounding forest, often in weighty bundles, built core strength and resilience. The pounding of clothes, or the tanning of hides, were all vigorous activities performed with purpose and dedication, contributing to an overall bodily fitness. Children, too, were not confined to structured play, but spent their days in free, uninhibited movement, climbing trees, running through meadows, and assisting with smaller chores, their bodies naturally developing strength and coordination. This constant, low to moderate intensity activity, punctuated by occasional bursts of higher effort, is often seen by modern health experts as an ideal model for human physical well-being. It built lean muscle mass, maintained strong bones, improved circulation, and kept joints flexible, all without the need for sophisticated equipment or dedicated gymnasiums. The ailments associated with sedentary lifestyles today, weak bones, poor posture, cardiovascular issues, were far less prevalent in societies where daily existence itself was the primary form of physical training. As societies grew larger and more complex, hints of more structured forms of exercise began to emerge, often intertwined with cultural practices, military training, and even spiritual development. Ancient civilizations, such as the Greeks and Romans, recognized the profound link between a healthy body and a healthy mind. For the Greeks, physical culture was deeply ingrained in their philosophy. They valued the harmonious development of both physical and intellectual prowess. The concept of the gymnasium, a place for naked exercise, where men trained in wrestling, running, jumping, and discus throwing, was central to their society. These were not merely places for physical training for warfare, though that was certainly a component, but also centers for intellectual discourse and the cultivation of an ideal citizen. The Olympic Games, dedicated to Zeus, celebrated the peak of human physical achievement, showcasing bodies honed through years of disciplined activity. The Romans, while perhaps more pragmatic in their approach, also understood the importance of physical conditioning, especially for their formidable legions. Soldiers underwent rigorous training, including long marches with heavy packs, weapon drills, and mock battles, ensuring they were not only skilled but also physically robust. Beyond military necessity, the Roman baths served as social centers where citizens could engage in light exercise, swim, or be massaged, a common practice for promoting circulation and muscle relaxation. In Asian cultures, practices like various forms of martial arts, born initially from self-defense, evolved into intricate systems of physical and mental discipline. Tai Chi, for instance, developed over centuries in China, is a gentle, flowing form of exercise that emphasizes slow, deliberate movements, deep breathing, and meditation. It cultivates balance, flexibility, and inner strength, and is still practiced today for its wide-ranging health benefits, demonstrating an early understanding of the connection between breath, movement, and overall well-being. Indian yoga, with its ancient roots, similarly combines physical postures, breathing techniques, and meditation, aimed at unifying the mind, body, and spirit, promoting both physical flexibility and mental tranquility. These early forms of structured exercise, while differing in their specific movements and philosophies, shared a common thread. They were not viewed as separate from life, but rather as integral components of a healthy, balanced existence. They were often intertwined with spiritual beliefs, ethical codes, or societal roles, making the pursuit of physical fitness a holistic endeavor. There was no distinct boundary between exercising and living, rather, life itself provided the canvas upon which the human body moved, strengthened, and thrived. Consider for a moment the simple daily walk, a fundamental human movement. Before cars, before public transport, walking was the primary mode of travel for most people. Even short distances, accumulated over a day, added up to significant physical activity. Those who lived by the sea might spend their days hauling fishing nets, or sailing small boats, their bodies adapting to the constant sway and pull. Upland dwellers would navigate steep inclines, developing powerful leg muscles and strong cardiovascular systems. Every profession, every task, contributed to a mosaic of physical input, keeping the human frame active and resilient. It's a gentle reminder that our bodies are designed for movement, an inherent truth that has not changed, even as our external world has become remarkably still. The deep, lasting health cultivated through this constant, natural physicality was a quiet testament to the body's incredible capacity for adaptation and strength, a gift of motion woven into the fabric of everyday life, sustaining health not through intervention, but through immersion. As we gently draw our thoughts from this era of inherent activity, perhaps you might feel a subtle prompting to stretch, or simply breathe a little deeper, embracing the quiet wisdom of movement. And so, as we continue our gentle journey into the past, let us turn our thoughts to another fundamental cornerstone of well-being, one that perhaps holds more sway than we often acknowledge in our brightly lit, perpetually busy world. Let us consider the profound embrace of sleep. Before the constant hum of electricity, before the glow of screens filled our nights with an artificial dawn, human lives were intimately woven into the grand tapestry of natural light and darkness. Imagine, if you will, a world where the rising sun was not merely a signal for the workday to begin, but a gentle awakening from a truly dark, silent night. And the setting sun, a profound invitation to rest, to stillness, to the replenishing depths of slumber. In those distant times, the human rhythm was dictated by an ancient, unwavering clock, the sun, arcing across the sky, and the moon, in its silent, luminous dance. There was a direct, visceral connection to those celestial movements, a sense of belonging within the vast, cosmic order. For countless generations, life flowed in harmony with these natural rhythms. As dusk deepened into true night, the world grew quiet. Fires might flicker, casting long, dancing shadows, offering a circle of warmth and companionship, but their light was contained, a beacon in the vast darkness, not a pervasive flood. And as the hours deepened, those fires would gently dwindle, echoing the fading energy of the day, inviting bodies and minds to surrender to the restorative embrace of sleep. This was not merely a matter of convenience, it was a biological imperative, deeply ingrained in the very fabric of human existence. The pineal gland, with its quiet wisdom, knew precisely when to release its gentle cascade of melatonin, that soothing hormone that invites repose. Without the disruptive influence of artificial light, this process was unhindered, a natural descent into the necessary unconsciousness, into the realm of dreams and profound bodily repair. In ancient societies, the importance of restorative sleep was implicitly understood, even if the precise molecular mechanisms were yet to be uncovered. They observed, they experienced, they felt the deep difference between a night of true rest and one where sleep was disturbed or insufficient. A rested hunter was a keener hunter, more alert, more agile. A well-slept gatherer was more observant, more careful in her foraging. A community with a collective pattern of healthy sleep was a more harmonious, more resilient community. The concept of sleep hygiene, though not formally articulated, was practiced through necessity and wisdom. There were no urgent emails to answer in the dead of night, no endless video feeds to scroll through. The dark called for quiet, for stillness, for the closing of eyes. Homes, whether simple huts or more complex dwellings, were built to ward off the chill of night, to provide a refuge for safe, uninterrupted slumber. The beds, though perhaps less plush than our modern conceptions, were places of sanctuary, prepared with care from natural materials, soft animal pelts, woven mats, dried grasses, offering comfort in the encircling darkness. Beyond the daily cycle of sun and moon, there were also the grander rhythms, the subtle but undeniable influences of the lunar phases and the seasonal shifts. The moon, in its waxing and waning, held a mystical power, often associated with female fertility, with the tides, and with various subtle energetic shifts that attentive observers noted. Perhaps during the brightest full moons, some might have stayed awake a little longer, basking in its silvery glow, or for specific observances tied to its radiant cycle. But even then, the profound darkness of the new moon would eventually return, urging a deeper descent into rest. And the seasons themselves were powerful orchestrators of human sleep patterns. In the depths of winter, when the days were short and the cold unforgiving, there was an instinctive pull towards longer hours of sleep, a period of conservation and introspection, much like the hibernation of many other creatures. The body, without the artificial extension of daylight, naturally slowed down. Fires burned brighter, but for warmth and comfort, not to banish the night entirely. This was a time for storytelling around the hearth, for intimate conversations, for the quiet rebuilding of strength. Conversely, the long, bright days of summer, with their extended hours of light, might have led to slightly shorter, yet still deeply nourishing, periods of sleep. The natural world was bursting with energy, with harvests to gather, with more demands on wakeful hours. Yet, even then, the body's innate wisdom would guide individuals towards necessary rest, perhaps a midday reprieve during the hottest hours, preparing for the renewed activity of the cooler evenings. Consider for a moment the profound stillness of such nights. The absence of mechanical noise, the quiet symphony of the natural world, the rustle of leaves, the distant cry of an owl, the gentle chirping of crickets. These were the lullabies of ancient humanity, a soothing chorus that ushered in sleep, rather than disrupting it. The very air felt different, cleaner, perhaps carrying the scent of damp earth or faraway wood smoke. This deep integration with natural timekeeping fostered an internal sense of balance, a robust circadian rhythm that was rarely challenged. The concept of jet lag would have been utterly alien. Instead, there was a steady, predictable unfolding of rest and activity, a rhythm that supported bodily systems, optimized cognitive function, and allowed for the rich tapestry of dreaming, which many ancient cultures viewed as an essential channel for communication, insight, and healing. Sleep was not just an absence of wakefulness, it was an active, vital process of renewal, a daily descent into a different state of being, absolutely essential for the continued health and vitality of both body and spirit. And as we bring our thoughts to a close for this part of our journey, let us carry with us a whisper of that ancient wisdom, a reminder of the profound nourishment that awaits us when we allow ourselves to truly align with the gentle, unwavering rhythm of light and darkness. Tonight, we gently glide further into the tranquil landscapes of human history, exploring the profound ways in which our ancestors fostered well-being, long before the precision of modern science. As we journey, allow yourself to sink comfortably into your space, perhaps dimming the lights, letting the gentle rhythm of these ancient stories lull you towards a peaceful slumber. If you find this journey soothing, a quiet like or subscribe would be a kind gesture, but for now, simply relax and let the words envelop you. We have spoken of the wisdom drawn from nature's bounty, of the careful observation of the body's own rhythms, and of the sacred reverence often intertwined with the healing arts. Yet, as we delve deeper into the tapestry of pre-modern health, one thread emerges with remarkable strength and shimmering beauty: the profound significance of community and the unwavering embrace of collective care. It is a concept quite distinct from our modern, often individualistic, approaches to health, a gentle reminder that for many millennia, well-being was not a solitary pursuit but a shared endeavor, a responsibility woven into the very fabric of daily life. Imagine, if you will, the small villages nestled by rivers or cradled within ancient forests, the flickering hearth fires casting long, dancing shadows upon communal walls. In these settings, isolation, as we sometimes experience it today, was a rare and often unwelcome guest. Each individual was deeply interconnected, a vital thread in the collective cloth. When illness arrived, it was not merely a personal affliction but an event that rippled outwards, touching every member of the family, and indeed, the wider community. There was no question of weathering the storm alone, no silent suffering within four walls. Instead, hands reached out, voices offered solace, and practical help flowed naturally, like a quiet river after a gentle rain. Consider the simple act of food preparation. In many traditional societies, this was often a communal activity, particularly during times of abundance or celebration. Beyond the nourishment itself, imagine the quiet murmur of shared conversation, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables, the comforting aromas mingling in the air. These were not just meals, they were rituals of connection, reinforcing bonds that stretched back generations. When someone fell ill, this collective effort would often intensify. Broths, carefully prepared with healing herbs and nutrient-rich ingredients, would be made with extra care, brought to the bedside by a neighbor or a loving hand, imbued not just with sustenance but with tangible empathy. The act of receiving such a gift, knowing it was prepared with thought and affection, surely soothed not only the body but also the troubled spirit. The elders, those repositories of accumulated wisdom and experience, played a uniquely significant role in this communal health system. They were not merely respected for their years, but for their deep understanding of local remedies, the subtle signs of various ailments, and the delicate art of emotional support. A grandmother, her hands gnarled by years of work, might possess an unparalleled knowledge of which leaves to steep for a fever, which poultice to apply to a wound, or which story to tell to calm a restless child. Her knowledge was not contained in books but lived within her, passed down through oral traditions, observed and absorbed by younger generations who would eventually carry the torch. When illness struck, she would be consulted, her quiet counsel a comforting balm, her presence a source of reassurance. She also understood the importance of patience, of allowing the body's own healing mechanisms to work, supported by gentle care rather than hasty interventions. Gatherings, whether for seasonal festivals, communal storytelling, or even daily tasks like weaving or mending nets, fostered a sense of belonging that contributed significantly to mental and emotional well-being. These interactions were often informal, yet deeply profound. Laughter shared, worries whispered, and burdens lightened through shared presence. These were vital components of a healthy life. For someone experiencing a period of low spirits, or struggling with a lingering ailment, these constant points of connection provided a safety net. There was always someone to listen, someone to offer a comforting touch, someone to include them in the ongoing rhythm of life, preventing the insidious creep of loneliness that can so easily exacerbate physical suffering. The practice of midwifery, for instance, perfectly illustrates this blend of communal care and specialized knowledge. Birthing was almost exclusively a female domain, a profound event witnessed and supported by a circle of women. The midwife, with her expert hands and calm demeanor, would guide the process, but she was never truly alone. Aunts, mothers, sisters, and trusted neighbors would gather, offering encouragement, preparing warm cloths, fetching water, and providing continuous emotional support to the birthing person. The collective energy, the shared anticipation, and the subsequent celebration of new life formed a powerful communal ritual, easing the transition for both mother and child, and ensuring that no one felt abandoned during such a vulnerable and crucial time. Even the spiritual practices of ancient societies often had a communal dimension to healing. When someone was believed to be afflicted by unseen forces, or simply overwhelmed by an unexplainable illness, the community might gather for a ritual, a ceremony, or a collective prayer. The intention was often to restore balance, to seek spiritual guidance, or to simply offer collective energy towards healing. While modern science might not fully understand the mechanisms at play, the psychological impact of such a collective effort, the feeling of being held and supported by one's entire social world, cannot be underestimated. It can ignite hope, diminish fear, and create a powerful internal environment conducive to recovery. The absence of isolation profoundly impacted how people navigated life's inevitable hardships, including illness and loss. Grief, for example, was not a personal, private battle fought in solitude. Instead, mourning rituals were often communal, allowing individuals to share their sorrow, draw strength from one another, and gradually integrate loss into the ongoing life of the group. This shared experience of grief provided both comfort and a structured path towards healing, ensuring that no one was left to flounder in the depths of despair alone. This sustained connection, this tangible presence of others, offered a profound form of emotional medicine. We can reflect on how truly fundamental these social bonds were. Our ancestors understood, perhaps instinctively, that human beings are fundamentally social creatures. Just as a healthy plant needs good soil and light, a healthy person needed the rich, sustaining soil of human connection. The laughter, the tears, the shared work, the collective wisdom, the comforting touches, the unspoken understandings, these were all vital nutrients for mental, emotional, and physical resilience. Their healthcare system, in many ways, was less about individual remedies and more about the interconnected web of support that allowed individuals to thrive even in the face of considerable challenges. Let us carry this gentle understanding with us as we continue our quiet journey, recognizing the enduring power of human connection, and appreciating the wisdom embedded in the ancient rhythms of communal well-being. Sleep gently, knowing that comfort and support have always been, in their myriad forms, essential companions on the human path. When we last met, we were quietly contemplating the ancient approaches to diagnosing ailments, of looking and feeling and listening to ascertain what might be awry within the delicate machinery of the human body. Tonight, as the soft light of the moon begins its slow ascent, painting gentle shadows across your windowpanes, let us gently turn our attention to what happened once those observations were made, to the earliest forays into what we might recognize as surgical intervention. Please make yourself entirely comfortable, perhaps adjusting a pillow just so, allowing your breaths to deepen and slow, as we journey back through time to witness the quiet determination of ancient hands working with remarkably simple tools. It can be difficult to truly grasp the sheer courage, and indeed, the profound vulnerability involved in these early surgical attempts, undertaken without the benefit of anesthesia as we know it, or the rigorous understanding of sterile fields. Yet, even thousands of years ago, when the world was a canvas of vast unknowns, humanity possessed an innate drive to heal, to mend, and sometimes, to boldly intervene when other remedies proved insufficient. We find ourselves marveling at their ingenuity, at the profound insights gleaned through observation and practice, often passed down through generations, each refinement a precious, hard-won step forward. Consider for a moment the practice of trepanation. This is a word that echoes with antiquity, describing the procedure of drilling or scraping a hole into the human skull. It may sound, at first blush, rather terrifying, a stark reminder of a bygone era. However, archaeological evidence from virtually every inhabited continent, stretching back some 7,000 years, reveals not only that this was a surprisingly widespread practice, but also that many individuals who underwent trepanation survived, often for many years thereafter. The presence of smooth, healed bone around the edges of these cranial openings is a testament to the patient's recovery, suggesting that the initial trauma of the procedure was overcome by the body's remarkable capacity for regeneration. The reasons for performing trepanation were varied, reflecting a blend of empirical observation and what we might perceive now as spiritual beliefs. It is thought that this delicate operation was often undertaken to relieve pressure after head injuries, perhaps from a fall or a battle, when swelling beneath the skull could prove fatal. The ancients, through careful observation, must have noticed that certain head traumas led to debilitating symptoms, and that perhaps, creating an opening could alleviate the unseen pressure. There is also evidence suggesting its use to treat chronic headaches, epilepsy, or even mental disorders, believed to be caused by evil spirits trapped within the skull. The tools used were rudimentary, sharp flints, obsidian blades, or even specialized bone instruments, all wielded with remarkable precision, a testament to the surgeon's steady hand and deep understanding of anatomy, even if that understanding was born purely from repeated practical experience rather than detailed textbooks. Beyond the skull, the human body presented other formidable challenges, particularly in the realm of broken bones. Fractures were, and remain, a common occurrence, and the ability to mend them was paramount for survival, especially in societies where physical capability was often directly linked to one's ability to hunt, gather, or defend oneself. The ingenuity here lay not in dramatic cutting, but in the careful, often patient, manipulation and immobilization of injured limbs. Ancient Egyptian medical texts, such as the Edwin Smith Papyrus, dating back to approximately 1600 BCE, offer surprisingly detailed instructions on how to treat various kinds of fractures and dislocations. These texts describe how a physician should first carefully examine the injury, feeling for deformities and assessing the extent of the damage. Then, with a gentle yet firm hand, the broken bones were to be realigned, brought back into their proper anatomical position. This was often done through traction, pulling the limb gently but continuously to overcome muscle spasms and bring the fragments into alignment. Once the bones were set, the next critical step was immobilization. The Egyptians were masters of this, utilizing splints made from fibrous materials like wood, reed, or bark. These were often padded with linen, leaves, or plant fibers to provide comfort and prevent pressure sores. The splints were then bound securely with bandages saturated in a resin or starch-based paste, which, upon drying, would harden into a remarkably rigid cast, holding the bone fragments firmly in place for weeks or even months while nature took its course in knitting the bone back together. The careful attention to padding and binding speaks volumes about a holistic approach, recognizing that while the primary goal was to mend a bone, the patient's comfort and long-term well-being were also considered. In other cultures, particularly in regions where bamboo was abundant, naturally hollowed sections could be split and used as effective splints. In regions with pliable woods, craftsmen would painstakingly carve custom-fitting splints, acknowledging the unique curvature of each limb. The sheer artistry involved, working with nature's materials to create something so functionally precise, is truly awe-inspiring. The Romans, for their part, also excelled in battlefield medicine, where fractures were tragically common. Their military surgeons were adept at reducing dislocations and setting bones, often utilizing very similar principles of traction and immobilization. They also understood the importance of protecting open wounds associated with fractures, carefully cleaning them and applying dressings to ward off infection, even if the underlying principles of germ theory were still millennia away. Their empirical observation must have shown them that clean wounds healed better, a simple but profound truth. It is worth noting that these early surgical interventions, whether for the skull or a broken limb, were not always successful, and certainly carried significant risks. Infection was a constant, unseen enemy, and the management of pain without effective analgesics was an immense challenge for both patient and practitioner. Yet, the very existence of these practices, and the evidence of countless successful outcomes, speaks to a profound human desire to overcome suffering, to extend life, and to find solutions, however imperfect, to the body's vulnerabilities. As we quietly conclude our exploration of these ancient surgical endeavors tonight, allow yourself to marvel at the quiet perseverance of those who came before us. Their steady hands, their keen observation, and their unwavering determination laid the earliest foundations for the medical understanding we possess today, brick by painstaking brick, through trial and sometimes, through profound error, all in the enduring quest to heal. Allow these images of ancient wisdom to gently fade now, as your own thoughts grow softer, guiding you smoothly towards a peaceful rest. If you found comfort in this journey through time, we would be most grateful if you would consider leaving a gentle trace of your appreciation. Good night. Tonight, we drift back to a time when life's most profound transitions unfolded with a quiet rhythm, guided by wisdom passed down through generations. Settle in softly, perhaps dimming the lights, and allow your thoughts to trace the gentle arc of ages. If you find yourself soothed by these quiet reflections, a gentle acknowledgement at the end would be gratefully received. Our journey tonight leads us to the heart of families, to the most tender and awe-inspiring of human events, the arrival of new life. Before the gleaming instruments and sterile environments that define modern obstetrics, before the white coats and beeping machines, the journey of childbirth was a deeply intimate, often communal, passage, held within the embrace of tradition and the steady hands of experienced women. Imagine a small dwelling, perhaps nestled by a hearth, the air warm and fragrant with simmering herbs. Here, a woman in labor found her solace not in a hospital bed, but often on her hands and knees, or squatting, or even standing, guided by the innate wisdom of her own body and the calm, reassuring presence beside her. This presence, so crucial, was almost invariably that of a midwife, a figure of profound significance in every community across the globe. These midwives were not just attendants, they were guardians of life, repositories of ancient knowledge, woven into the very fabric of society. Their expertise was not learned from textbooks, but from years of observation, from assisting at countless births, from listening to the stories of their mothers and grandmothers, and from an intimate understanding of the natural world around them. They carried within them a lineage of wisdom, a silent, unbroken chain stretching back through time, connecting each birth to all those that had come before. Their role was multifaceted, extending far beyond the moment of delivery. From the earliest days of a woman's pregnancy, the midwife would often be a comforting confidant, offering advice on diet, on gentle movements, on herbs to soothe common discomforts. She might share remedies for morning sickness, perhaps a concoction of ginger or mint, or suggest specific teas for relaxation. Her presence alone was a source of emotional support, alleviating fears and nurturing a sense of calm anticipation. When labor began, her steady hand was a beacon of reassurance. She understood the subtle signs of progression, the ebbs and flows of contractions, the unique rhythm of each individual birth. She knew the power of patience, allowing the body to work its miracles without undue interference. Her focus was on creating an environment that honored the natural process, fostering a sense of safety and calm. She possessed a deep knowledge of natural remedies, gathered from the fields and forests, from the gardens often tended just outside the door. Herbs were her pharmacy, raspberry leaf tea to strengthen the uterus, comfort for healing, chamomile for its calming properties. She might prepare warm poultices to ease discomfort, or use gentle massage with infused oils to soothe aching muscles. Sometimes, she would apply warm compresses, or encourage a woman to bathe in warm water, its comforting embrace easing the intensity of contractions. The scent of lavender or rosemary might subtly perfume the air, chosen for their calming and antiseptic qualities. The midwife also understood the importance of comfort and positioning. She knew that lying flat on one's back was often the least effective position for birth, and would encourage movement, walking, leaning, squatting, whatever felt most natural and empowering to the laboring woman. She might support a woman's back, her hands providing a firm anchor, or hold a steady gaze, reflecting calm and strength. Moreover, these female healers were often skilled at more practical, yet gentle, interventions. They understood the subtleties of encouraging a baby to turn, perhaps through specific postures or gentle external manipulation if a baby was not presenting optimally. They knew how to manage a challenging birth with ingenuity and courage, always prioritizing the safety of both mother and child, drawing upon instincts honed over years and generations. The act of birth itself was often a communal event, particularly in tightly knit communities. While the midwife was the primary guide, other women, mothers, sisters, aunts, close friends, might gather to offer quiet support, to prepare nourishing broths, to tend to the fire, to share stories that instilled courage. This sisterhood, this shared feminine experience, created a powerful circle of care, a protective cocoon around the birthing mother. After the birth, the midwife's role continued. She would assist with the delivery of the placenta, carefully inspecting it to ensure its completeness, believing this to be crucial for the mother's recovery. She would then turn her attention to the new mother and her infant, offering tender care to both. She knew how to bind a mother's belly to aid recovery, to prepare sitz baths for healing, and to concoct nourishing postpartum meals. She would guide the new mother in the art of breastfeeding, offering gentle encouragement and practical advice. For the newborn, she might perform a gentle cleansing, ensure warmth, and guide the first crucial moments of bonding. The knowledge these women held was profound, encompassing not just physical care, but spiritual and emotional support as well. They understood the sacredness of birth, often incorporating rituals or blessings that honored the transition into motherhood. Their wisdom extended beyond the purely medical, touching upon the holistic well-being of the family. In many cultures, the midwife was not just a healthcare provider, she was a spiritual guide, a wise woman, or revered elder. Her home might be a place of pilgrimage for those seeking advice, not only on childbirth but on matters of health and life. She was a keeper of tradition, a living embodiment of the community's collective wisdom. The fading light of an oil lamp, the warmth of a gentle hand, the soft murmurs of encouragement. These were the hallmarks of childbirth for millennia. It was a time when the deepest human experiences were held within the trusted circle of community, guided by the profound and gentle wisdom of women who understood the delicate dance between life and nature. This chapter in our human story reminds us of the enduring power of gentle hands, intuitive knowledge, and the quiet strength found in ancient traditions. Tonight, we drift back to a time before our modern understanding of well-being, exploring how people nurtured their minds when the tools and knowledge we rely upon today simply did not exist. As you settle in, perhaps dimming the lights just a touch, allowing the soft shadows to deepen around you, imagine a world where the intricate dance between inner peace and outer health was recognized with an intuitive wisdom. Should you find tonight's journey soothing, a gentle tap on the like button or a quiet subscription would be a lovely gesture, but for now, simply allow yourself to sink deeper into comfort. Our journey through the landscape of ancient health practices now turns to the inner workings of the human spirit, to the delicate balance of the mind, and the profound ways in which our ancestors sought to preserve its sanctity. In those bygone eras, the concept of a separate, mental health, as we understand it today was largely absent, not because the struggles of the mind were unknown, but because they were often woven inextricably into the very fabric of physical health, spiritual belief, and communal life. A broken spirit was seen not merely as an isolated ailment, but as a disharmony within the larger symphony of being, affecting the body, influencing one's relationship with the divine, and impacting one's place within the community. This holistic perspective, a seamless integration of mind and body, spirit and society, stands as a gentle sentinel overlooking the landscape of ancient well-being. Consider, for instance, the deeply spiritual dimensions that permeated the lives of many ancient cultures. In societies where deities and spirits were perceived as active participants in the daily drama of existence, disruptions to one's mental state were frequently interpreted through a spiritual lens. A sense of despondency, a creeping anxiety, or even vivid hallucinations might be attributed to the displeasure of a god, the influence of malevolent spirits, or a soul that had strayed from its sacred path. Consequently, the remedies often involved sacred rituals, elaborate ceremonies, and heartfelt prayers, designed not only to appease the divine but also to reintegrate the struggling individual into a cohesive spiritual framework. Priests, shamans, and elders were often the primary caregivers for such afflictions, acting as intermediaries between the earthly and the ethereal, guiding individuals through purification rites, offerings, and invocations, all intended to restore spiritual equilibrium and, by extension, mental peace. The very act of participating in these rituals, surrounded by the familiar sounds of chanting, the rhythmic beat of drums, and the comforting scent of burning herbs, could induce a profound sense of calm and reassurance, fostering a belief in healing that was itself a powerful medicine. Community support, a cornerstone of human society since its earliest beginnings, played an equally vital role in nurturing mental well-being. Unlike the often isolating experience of mental distress in contemporary society, ancient communities typically embraced a collective responsibility for their members' welfare. An individual struggling with sorrow, despair, or behavioral changes was not merely left to suffer in solitude. Instead, they were often enveloped by the warmth of their kin and neighbors, their burdens shared through communal grieving rituals, supportive conversations, and practical assistance. The feeling of belonging, of being seen, heard, and valued within a close-knit group, served as a potent buffer against the ravages of isolation and alienation, which we now recognize as significant contributors to mental health challenges. Storytelling, a revered art form in many ancient traditions, also functioned as a therapeutic tool, transmitting cultural wisdom, moral lessons, and strategies for navigating life's difficulties. Through these narratives, individuals could find echoes of their own struggles, discover pathways to resilience, and feel a profound connection to the collective human experience, transcending their immediate anxieties. Meditative practices, though perhaps not always labeled as such, were integral to fostering mental tranquility across diverse cultures. From the deliberate, repetitive motions of weaving or pottery making in practical crafts, to the focused recitation of mantras or sacred texts in spiritual traditions, our ancestors understood the power of sustained, mindful attention. These practices served as conduits for inner stillness, pathways to quiet the incessant chatter of the mind. Imagine the rhythmic act of grinding grain, the focused concentration on each pass of the stone, occupying the mind with a task both essential and repetitive, allowing other worries to gently recede. Or consider the disciplined postures and breath control practiced in ancient yogic traditions, designed precisely to calm the nervous system and achieve a state of heightened awareness, a clear and tranquil mind. These were not mere physical exercises but sophisticated techniques for mental cultivation, fostering a deep connection between the individual's inner world and the expansive outer cosmos. The contemplative solitude of walking through nature, observing the subtle shifts in light and shadow, listening to the whispered secrets of the wind through leaves, or the gentle murmur of a stream, also served as an unspoken form of meditation, a communion with the profound rhythms of the natural world that could steady a restless spirit. Sleep, too, was often understood not merely as a physical necessity but as a restorative journey for the mind and spirit. Rituals surrounding sleep, including specific prayers before slumber, the use of calming herbs in bedding, or the sharing of protective dreams, all contributed to a sense of spiritual safety and mental repose. Dreams themselves were often regarded as significant, offering guidance or revealing insights into one's inner state, further intertwining the night's unconscious life with waking mental well-being. The pervasive belief in a holistic connection between mind and body meant that a physical ailment was rarely treated in isolation from a person's emotional and spiritual state. If someone was experiencing persistent melancholia, it might be attributed to an imbalance of bodily humors, or a disharmony in their life force, but the proposed remedies would often encompass both physical and psychological components. A healing concoction of herbs might be prescribed alongside advice for resolving a long-standing conflict, or engaging in acts of devotion. Conversely, physical pain or illness could be viewed as a manifestation of unresolved spiritual or emotional distress, prompting approaches that addressed the root cause within the psyche rather than merely alleviating the somatic symptom. This intricate web of interconnectedness meant that mental wellness was not an afterthought, but an embedded goal within almost every aspect of health and daily living. Even before the advent of structured philosophical systems, early understandings of the self often emphasized temperance, moderation, and the cultivation of virtues as pathways to inner peace. For example, ancient Greek philosophy, with its rich tapestry of thinkers, delved deeply into the nature of happiness and the good life. Stoicism, for instance, taught the importance of distinguishing between what one can control and what one cannot, advocating for the acceptance of fate and the cultivation of an inner citadel of tranquility. The pursuit of wisdom, the mastery of passions, and the disciplined practice of self-reflection were seen as essential components for a life free from mental anguish. These philosophical systems offered not just intellectual exercises, but practical guidelines for living, providing frameworks for navigating personal challenges, managing emotions, and finding meaning in existence. In these ancient ways, the intricate tapestry of mental well-being was not fragmented into distinct parts, but rather, it was a whole, imbued with meaning and connected to the larger universe. Our ancestors, through their rituals, their community bonds, their quiet contemplations, and their integrated understanding of life, sought a profound sense of balance. They recognized that a calm mind was truly a precious possession, a foundation upon which a healthy and flourishing life could be built, nurturing it with a gentle reverence that echoes across the millennia. This patient understanding, this deep awareness of the inner life, offers a quiet reflection for our own modern hurried world, reminding us of the enduring human need for connection, meaning, and inner stillness. Tonight, we turn our attention to the delicate art of prevention, a whisper from times long past, reminding us how our ancestors, with gentle wisdom, sought to maintain their health long before the intricate marvels of modern medicine. As you settle into your most comfortable place, perhaps dimming the lights just a little, allowing the day's edges to soften, we shall drift through the serene landscapes of historical practices. If, as our journey unfolds, you find a sense of peace within these narratives, please do consider offering a gentle like or subscribing, allowing more quiet moments to be shared. In the long tapestry of human existence, spanning countless generations and myriad civilizations, a fundamental understanding persisted. The deepest, most enduring form of healing often lay not in the cure of an ailment, but in its beautiful, steadfast prevention. It was a philosophy woven into daily life, a common thread binding communities, a quiet knowledge passed from elder to child. This overarching focus on preventing illness was not a reactive measure, but rather a proactive embrace of a balanced existence, deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world and the enduring wisdom of cultural practices. Imagine, if you will, a world where the boundaries between human life and the natural environment were wonderfully fluid, where the scent of damp earth after rain or the shimmering light of a rising sun were not merely observations but integral components of one's well-being. Our forebears understood, with an instinctive grace, that their health was inextricably linked to the health of their surroundings. They adapted to their natural environments with an intimate knowledge, learning to discern the subtle shifts in seasons, the bounty and potential perils of local flora and fauna, and the delicate balance of their ecosystems. Consider the simple, yet profound, act of choosing where to build a settlement. It was not merely about defensive positioning or access to resources, though these were certainly important considerations. It was also about proximity to clean, flowing water sources, avoiding stagnant marshes where unseen miasmas might linger, and finding elevated, airy places where the damp cold might not settle so heavily in the bones. The very air they breathed, the water they drank, the earth they tilled, all were considered with a reverence that spoke of an ancient, intuitive ecology. They observed, for instance, that communities situated near fresh mountain springs often enjoyed better health than those drawing water from slower-moving rivers in warmer climes, and this observation, devoid of scientific explanation, still guided their practical decisions. Beyond the immediate physical environment, a deeper layer of prevention was embedded within the very fabric of daily life, the lifestyle itself. This was not a conscious diet plan or an exercise regimen in the modern sense, but an organic integration of activity, nourishment, and rest that fostered robust health. Manual labor, for countless centuries, was the cornerstone of existence: farming, hunting, gathering, building, movements that sculpted strong bodies and maintained a natural metabolic balance. There was a rhythm to this exertion, a cyclical nature tied to agricultural seasons and the demands of survival, often interspersed with periods of relative rest and community celebration. Nourishment, too, played its crucial preventative role. Diets, though varied widely by region and culture, shared a common thread of being largely whole, unprocessed, and locally sourced. Grains, vegetables, fruits, and lean proteins, consumed in accordance with seasonal availability, provided a steady stream of vital nutrients. Methods of food preparation, such as fermentation, drying, and salting, were not merely about preservation, they often enhanced digestibility or even nutrient content, albeit unknowingly. The concept of eating for health was less about following strict rules and more about ingrained habits, passed down through generations, observing the beneficial or detrimental effects of certain foods upon the body. Indeed, the adage, "food as medicine," echoes through many ancient traditions, suggesting a profound understanding of diet's preventative power. And then, there were the venerable cultural practices, those invisible threads that collectively wove a safety net of well-being for entire communities. These practices, often deeply rooted in spiritual beliefs or communal rituals, frequently carried profound implications for health. Consider the regular bathing practices in many cultures, whether for religious purification or sheer cleanliness, which inadvertently played a significant role in preventing skin infections and reducing the spread of communicable diseases. The elaborate steam baths of Roman, Ottoman, and indigenous American traditions were not just about hygiene, they were also social spaces, promoting relaxation and communal well-being, both physical and mental. The adherence to festivals and ceremonies often included periods of fasting or feasting, communal meals shared, and sustained physical activity in dance or procession. While their primary purpose might have been spiritual or social cohesion, these practices also served to regulate dietary intake, encourage physical movement, and foster strong social bonds, which, even today, are recognized as vital components of mental and emotional health. Many traditional medicines were not simply about treating symptoms, they were also about maintaining a continuous state of balance within the body, mind, and spirit, a holistic approach that underscored the preventative nature of their care. Perhaps the most potent aspect of preventative health in these historical contexts was the pervasive emphasis on harmony, harmony with nature, harmony within the community, and harmony within oneself. This was not a sterile, scientific concept, but a lived experience, deeply felt and understood. When one lived in harmony with the natural environment, respecting its cycles and resources, one's body naturally aligned with these rhythms. When one existed in harmony within a community, supported by strong social ties and shared responsibilities, the burdens of life were lessened, and instances of isolation and its associated health challenges were reduced. And when one cultivated harmony within oneself, through practices of mindfulness, storytelling, or spiritual contemplation, the inner landscape became more resilient to the stresses and strains of existence. This profound concept of harmony guided choices in everything from the construction of homes, oriented to the sun and prevailing winds, to the cultivation of medicinal gardens, where plants were grown with a deep respect for their beneficial properties. It influenced the timing of hunts and harvests, ensuring sustainability and minimizing waste. It even shaped the language used to describe illness, often framed as an imbalance or a disharmony, requiring a gentle recalibration rather than an aggressive assault. So, as we bring this quiet reflection to a close, let us carry with us this gentle reminder from our past, that health was often achieved not through grand interventions, but through steady, respectful navigation of the world, through cultivating a balanced lifestyle, adapting gracefully to the environment, and upholding those cultural practices that nurtured the body, mind, and spirit. It was a testament to the enduring wisdom that a life lived in harmony, intimately entwined with the natural world, was, in itself, the most profound form of prevention. And now, as we gently turn the page of our shared story, we find ourselves drifting toward another fascinating facet of ancient healing, one that often involved a quiet, respectful partnership with the animal kingdom. For many generations, before the complexities of modern pharmacology, people looked to the creatures around them, not merely for sustenance, but for remedies, for balms, and for properties they believed could mend and soothe. Let us begin with a shimmering golden substance, imbued with the warmth of the sun and the diligent work of tiny winged artisans, honey. This viscous, sweet nectar, gathered from the blossoms of field and forest, has been revered across cultures and millennia, far beyond its culinary appeal. Ancient Egyptian papyri, those delicate whispers from a distant past, often speak of honey's application as a healing agent. They would mix it with herbs, spreading it over wounds and burns, trusting in its perceived antiseptic qualities and its capacity to draw forth impurities. Its natural acidity and high sugar content, we now understand, indeed create an environment less hospitable to certain unwelcome microorganisms. The Greeks, too, including the physician Hippocrates himself, recognized honey's virtues, prescribing it for digestive ailments, for coughs and sore throats, and as a general tonic to bolster the body's resilience. Imagine the quiet ritual of a mother gently applying a honey poultice to a child's scraped knee beneath the soft glow of an oil lamp, the air perfumed with its delicate sweetness, a simple act of care passed down through countless generations. Beyond honey, the humble beeswax, the very architecture of the hive, found its own place in these ancient pharmacopoeias. Warmed and molded, it became a supple base for ointments and salves, a protective layer for irritated skin. Combined with oils and herbs, it would create soothing balms, sealing in moisture and offering a gentle barrier against the harshness of the elements. One could almost feel the smooth, earthy texture of such a balm being applied, a tender comfort. Then, our journey takes us to other animal products, some perhaps less immediately intuitive to our modern sensibilities, but deeply embedded in the traditional practices of diverse cultures. Consider the use of animal fats and oils. From the rendered fat of various animals, people would create nourishing salves and liniments. Bear fat, for instance, in some Native American traditions, was valued for its perceived ability to soothe aching joints and muscles, its rich emollients thought to penetrate and provide warmth. Similarly, fish oils, particularly those rich in essential fatty acids, though their chemical composition was unknown at the time, were noted for their nourishing properties, ingested for general well-being or applied topically for skin conditions. Picture the quiet preparation, the meticulous rendering of fat over a low fire, the gentle bubbling, and the subsequent mixing with fragrant herbs, creating a potent, earthy unguent. Moving deeper into the realm of traditional medicine, we encounter practices involving specific animal organs and their extracts. This approach often stemmed from a concept known as sympathy or affinity, where it was believed that consuming or applying parts of an animal that were strong or healthy in a particular way could impart that strength or health to a human ailment. For instance, in some ancient Chinese and Indian Ayurvedic traditions, liver extracts, sometimes dried and powdered, were used to address issues related to vision or general vitality. Though the scientific understanding of vitamins was centuries away, these practices, perhaps coincidentally, connected to the high vitamin content, particularly vitamin A, found in liver, which is crucial for eye health. Similarly, other organ tissues were sometimes employed. The heart of a swift animal might be ingested, or its essence sought, in the hope of strengthening one's own heart. The brain or bone marrow, rich in nutrients, were occasionally consumed, believed to impart intellectual prowess or bolster skeletal health. These were often not everyday remedies but might be reserved for more serious or chronic conditions, and the preparation would have been precise, perhaps even ritualistic, signifying the profound respect for the animal and its perceived healing potential. Imagine the quiet solemnity of such a preparation, a deep connection to the life force of the animal being respectfully channeled for healing. Even less common animal parts, such as gallbladders containing bile, were occasionally utilized. In some Eastern traditions, dried bear bile, for example, has been historically valued for its perceived ability to treat liver conditions, inflammation, and even certain fevers. Cholagogue properties, which stimulate bile flow, were intuitively recognized, though the precise chemical compounds responsible, like ursodeoxycholic acid, would only be identified in later scientific investigations. The procuring and processing of such remedies would have been a delicate and often dangerous task, emphasizing their perceived potency and value. Then there were practices involving insects, often considered part of the broader animal kingdom in these contexts. The blister beetle, or cantharidin, though toxic in large doses, was used in highly dilute forms as a blistering agent in some historical medical practices. This concept of counter-irritation, drawing out pain or inflammation from deeper tissues by creating a superficial irritation, was a common therapeutic strategy in many ancient systems. And of course, the ant, with its formic acid, was sometimes used by Native American tribes in smaller, controlled applications for its stimulating or antiseptic qualities. It is important to remember that these animal-based cures were often interwoven with spiritual beliefs, with incantations, and with a comprehensive understanding of the patient's individual constitution and environment. They were not merely isolated substances but part of a holistic approach to well-being, often prescribed by healers, shamans, or medicine people who possessed generations of accumulated knowledge and keen observational skills. The efficacy of many of these remedies, when viewed through a modern lens, can sometimes be attributed to placebo effect, or to coincidental discovery of truly beneficial compounds, or to practices that inadvertently aligned with basic physiological principles. For example, the antibacterial properties of honey, or the nutritional value of organ meats, or the anti-inflammatory compounds found in certain insect secretions. As we gently bring this exploration of animal-based cures to a close, let us reflect on the ingenuity, the resourcefulness, and the deep interconnectedness humanity felt with the natural world. These practices, born from necessity and observation, represent a profound testament to the ancient understanding that healing could be found not only in the plant kingdom, but in a respectful, discerning engagement with the furry, feathered, and buzzing inhabitants of our shared planet. The quiet hum of the beehive, the gentle movement of grazing animals, the rustle of leaves, each sound carrying the potential for a remedy, a comfort, a pathway toward well-being. And with that gentle thought, we prepare to continue our tranquil journey into the past. Tonight, as the world outside softens into twilight, we embark upon a serene journey, drifting back through the annals of time to explore a fascinating aspect of health and healing in antiquity. This evening, we shall gently turn our attention to the profound and often intertwined realms of the spirit, body, and mind, considering how deeply these connections were felt and responded to in civilizations long past. So, perhaps, you might wish to find a comfortable position, allow the gentle quiet of your surroundings to enfold you, and perhaps dim the lights a little, preparing for a tranquil exploration. If, by the end of our shared narrative, you find a gentle warmth lingering, a quiet contentment settling, we would be truly grateful if you might consider leaving a little like or even subscribing, so we can continue to share these peaceful tales. In many ancient cultures, the understanding of health extended far beyond the visible confines of the physical body. Illness was often perceived not merely as a physiological malfunction, but as a disharmony across multiple planes of existence, a disturbance within the spirit, a disconnection from the sacred, or perhaps an imbalance in the natural order of things. This holistic perspective, though perhaps not articulated in the same scientific terms we use today, underpinned a vast array of healing practices, weaving spiritual rituals, fervent prayers, and profound meditations into the very fabric of healthcare. Consider, for a moment, the ancient Egyptians, a civilization deeply attuned to the rhythms of the cosmos and the mysteries of the afterlife. For them, a malady could sometimes be attributed to malevolent spirits, an unhappy deity, or even a transgression against divine law. Healing, therefore, often involved appeasing these forces, seeking divine intercession, and restoring a sacred equilibrium. Priests, who were often also skilled physicians, would perform elaborate rituals, chanting sacred texts from papyri now aged and fragile, offering incense whose fragrant tendrils would gently ascend, and making offerings to specific gods associated with healing, such as Sekhmet, the lioness goddess whose ferocity could both bring and alleviate disease. The very act of visiting a temple for healing was itself a deeply spiritual undertaking, a journey imbued with intention and hope, where the supplicant would bathe in sacred waters, perhaps sleep within the temple precincts in hopes of a divine dream bringing diagnostic revelation or a cure, and participate in communal prayers, surrendering their affliction into the hands of the divine. Across vast oceans and through centuries, similar threads of belief can be seen in the practices of the ancient Greeks. While Hippocrates is justly celebrated for his emphasis on rational observation and natural causes of disease, the spiritual dimension of healing was never entirely absent. The cult of Asclepius, the god of medicine, flourished throughout the Greek world. Pilgrims from far and wide would travel to Asclepia, the temples dedicated to him, renowned for their serene settings and therapeutic atmosphere. Here, patients would engage in a practice known as incubation, sleeping within the abaton, a sacred dormitory, hoping to receive a healing dream or a divine visitation from Asclepius himself, who might appear in serpentine form or as a wise, bearded figure, revealing a cure or performing a miraculous intervention. Before this, purification rituals, bathing, fasting, and sacrificing, would prepare the body and spirit, creating a receptive state for divine grace. The very architecture of these healing sanctuaries, often nestled in tranquil hillsides with flowing springs, was designed to soothe and uplift the spirit, recognizing the profound impact of environment on healing. The gentle murmur of the wind through cypress trees, the soft gurgle of water, the quiet reverence of fellow seekers, all these elements contributed to a holistic healing experience. Moving eastward, into the ancient civilizations of India, we encounter the profoundly sophisticated system of Ayurveda, meaning the science of life. While Ayurveda encompasses detailed knowledge of herbal medicine, diet, and lifestyle, its foundational principles are deeply rooted in spiritual philosophy. The concept of prana, or life force, flowing through subtle energy channels, and the balance of the three dashas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, are inseparable from a holistic view of human existence that includes the mind and spirit. To achieve true health, or svastha, one must not only tend to the physical body but also cultivate mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual harmony. Practices like meditation, dhyana, a focused stillness of the mind often accompanied by gentle breath awareness, pranayama, were, and remain, central to health maintenance and recovery. These techniques were not merely stress reduction methods but tools for connecting with a deeper, inner wisdom, for purifying the mind, and for fostering a profound sense of inner peace that was believed to directly influence physical well-being. The chanting of mantras, sacred sounds or phrases repeated rhythmically, was also widely employed, believed to resonate with divine energies and facilitate healing at a vibrational level, bringing the individual into greater alignment with cosmic order. In ancient China, the interconnectedness of heaven, earth, and humanity formed the bedrock of their understanding of health. The concept of qi, pronounced qi, the vital life force, pervading all things and circulating within the human body, is central to traditional Chinese medicine. Illness was frequently attributed to blockages or imbalances in the flow of qi. While acupuncture and herbal medicine addressed these imbalances directly, spiritual cultivation played an equally crucial role. Taoist practices, for instance, emphasized living in harmony with the Tao, the natural way of the universe, through practices like mindful movement, such as early forms of Qigong or Tai Chi, meditation, and ethical living. These practices were not just physical exercises, they were spiritual disciplines aimed at cultivating internal qi, strengthening the essence, jing, and calming the spirit, shen, thereby enhancing the body's natural healing capabilities and preventing disease. The slow, deliberate movements of Qigong, performed in tranquil settings, were believed to gently guide and regulate qi, dissolving blockages and fostering a sense of serene fluidity within the body and mind. The focus was often internal, an intimate dance between breath, movement, and intention, seeking harmony not just externally, but within the very core of one's being. Across these diverse cultures, a consistent theme emerges: the belief that the health of the physical body is inextricably linked to the well-being of the mind and spirit. These ancient peoples recognized that fear, anxiety, grief, and a sense of spiritual disconnection could profoundly impact one's susceptibility to illness and one's capacity for recovery. Therefore, healing interventions often aimed at assuaging these spiritual and emotional distresses, cultivating a sense of calm, hope, and connection. The priest, the shaman, the spiritual healer, or the sage played a crucial role in providing not just remedies, but comfort, guidance, and a framework for understanding suffering that gave it meaning, thereby empowering the individual through their faith and fostering a profound sense of inner resilience. Whether through the whispered prayers in an Egyptian temple, the sacred dreams within an Asclepian, the mindful meditations in ancient India, or the gentle cultivation of qi in China, these spiritual practices offered a powerful pathway to healing. They addressed the whole person, not just the symptom, fostering a deep belief in a greater order, in benevolent forces, and in the intrinsic capacity of the body-mind-spirit complex to find its way back to balance. The profound beauty of these ancient approaches lies in their recognition of the human need for meaning, connection, and hope in the face of illness, a wisdom that continues to resonate softly, even in our modern world. And so, As these quiet reflections settle, we can perhaps appreciate a little more deeply the tapestry of human understanding woven through time, acknowledging the ever-present yearning for wholeness, for an unburdened spirit, and for the gentle peace that comes with it. Tonight, as the world outside softens into the quiet hues of evening, we drift back through the gentle currents of time, exploring the remarkable ways people nurtured their well-being long before the intricate precision of modern medicine. Perhaps you might find a comfortable space now, letting your shoulders gently relax, allowing the ambient glow to recede, as we embark on this tranquil journey together. Should you, by the end of our shared moments, find a certain resonance in these whispers from the past, a quiet inclination to linger, a gentle tap of the like button or a soft consideration of subscribing would be a most welcome sign. Our journey now leads us to a deeply rich and ancient tradition, one that has, for millennia, carefully observed the subtle dance of life and the intricate balance within the human form, traditional Chinese medicine. It is not a system built upon the dissection of isolated parts, but rather, a profound tapestry woven from an understanding of the whole, of interconnectedness, a philosophy that views the body, mind, and spirit as an inseparable entity, constantly interacting with the natural world around it. Imagine, for a moment, a tranquil garden, where every bloom, every leaf, every stone, contributes to a harmonious whole, each element influencing and being influenced by the others. This is, in its essence, the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine. At its very heart lies the elegant concept of yin and yang, two fundamental, complementary forces that permeate all of existence. Picture the soft glow of twilight blending seamlessly with the burgeoning darkness of night, neither existing without the other, a constant, fluid interplay. Yin represents qualities like coolness, darkness, passivity, femininity, and interiority, much like the gentle, calming presence of the moon. Yang, on the other hand, embodies warmth, light, activity, masculinity, and exteriority, akin to the vibrant energy of the sun. Health, within this framework, is understood as a delicate balance between these two forces within the body. When one becomes too dominant or too weak, a disharmony arises, and this imbalance can manifest as illness. A fever, for instance, might be seen as an excess of yang, a frigid internal sensation as an excess of yin. The true art lies in discerning these subtle shifts and guiding the body back towards its natural equilibrium, restoring that exquisite harmony. Flowing through this understanding, animating all life, is what is known as qi. One might ponder qi as a life force, an energy, a vital essence that circulates throughout the body, nourishing every organ, every cell, every thought. It is not merely a metaphor, practitioners describe it as a palpable reality, a subtle current that can be felt and influenced. Imagine a river, gracefully winding its way through a landscape, bringing life-giving water to every corner it touches. Qi is much like this river, and when its flow is smooth and abundant, health flourishes. However, if this river becomes blocked, or too weak, or too turbulent, the areas it nourishes begin to suffer, leading to symptoms of disease. This idea underscores the profound connection between our internal vitality and our outward expression of health. And how does this vital energy, this qi, navigate its way through the intricate geography of the human body? It does so through a complex network of pathways called meridians. Envision these meridians as invisible channels, a delicate tracery beneath the skin, much like the veins and arteries that carry blood, yet carrying not blood, but qi. There are 12 principal meridians, each associated with a specific organ system, such as the lung meridian, the spleen meridian, the kidney meridian, each named for the primary organ they relate to, though the meridian encompasses more than just the organ itself, it represents a functional energetic system. These meridians crisscross the body, forming an intricate web, and along these pathways lie specific points, a constellation of over 300, known as acupoints. These points, often described as tiny gateways, are where the qi is most accessible and where it can be influenced. This leads us to the practice of acupuncture, perhaps one of the most widely recognized facets of traditional Chinese medicine. It is a gentle art, involving the insertion of very fine, sterile needles into these specific acupoints along the meridian pathways. The sensation, when the needle reaches its intended depth, is often quite subtle, perhaps a dull ache, a light pressure, or a mild tingling, a feeling often referred to as di qi, signaling that the qi has been engaged. The purpose of acupuncture is not to simply mask symptoms, but to restore the smooth and vigorous flow of qi, to unblock stagnation, to draw excess away, or to nourish deficiency. If the river of qi is blocked, the needles act as gentle clearings, allowing the current to flow freely once more. If the river is sluggish, they stimulate its movement. If it is overactive, they help to calm its turbulence. Patients often report not only a reduction in their specific symptoms but also a general sense of calm, increased energy, and an overall feeling of enhanced well-being, a testament to the holistic impact of balancing the body's subtle energies. Imagine the gentle sigh of relief as a burdened system finds its equilibrium again. Complementing acupuncture, and often working in synergy with it, are the vast and ancient pharmacopoeia of herbal formulas. The use of natural substances, primarily plants, but sometimes minerals and even animal products, though less common in modern practices due to ethical and conservation concerns, is a cornerstone of traditional Chinese medicine. These are not single herbs for single symptoms, but rather carefully crafted combinations, intricate recipes designed to address the unique pattern of imbalance within an individual. Each herb within a formula plays a specific role. Some are primary, targeting the core imbalance, others are secondary, supporting the primary herb or addressing accompanying symptoms, some act as harmonizers, ensuring all the ingredients work together smoothly, and still others serve as guides, directing the formula to the specific part of the body requiring attention. Imagine a master chef, meticulously selecting an array of ingredients, each contributing its distinct flavor and property, blending them in precise proportions to create a dish that is both nourishing and exquisitely balanced. A traditional herbal formula is much like this, a thoughtful creation, where the energetic properties of each herb, its temperature, warm, cool, neutral, its taste, sweet, bitter, pungent, and its associated organs or meridians, are carefully considered. For instance, a formula for a cold, damp condition might feature warming, drying herbs, while one for a hot, agitated state would incorporate cooling, calming botanicals. The wisdom embedded in these formulas has been refined over centuries, passed down through generations, a botanical library of profound insight into the healing power of nature. They are often taken as decoctions, brewed like a strong tea, where the essences of the herbs are dissolved into a warm, often earthy liquid, slowly sipped, allowing their gentle influence to permeate the system. The true beauty of traditional Chinese medicine lies in its personalized approach. There is no one-size-fits-all remedy. Two individuals presenting with the same Western diagnosis, say, headaches, might receive entirely different acupuncture points or herbal formulas, because their underlying energetic imbalances, their unique patterns of yin and yang, of qi stagnation or deficiency, might be completely distinct. The practitioner carefully observes the tongue, its color, coating, shape, a subtle map of internal conditions. They feel the pulse, not just for its rate and rhythm, but for its depth, its strength, its quality, revealing secrets in its gentle undulations. They listen to the voice, observe the complexion, inquire deeply into sleep patterns, digestion, emotional states, gathering a comprehensive picture of the whole person. It is a process of unfolding, of listening intently to the body's own intricate narrative. In essence, traditional Chinese medicine offers a profound lens through which to view human health, as a dynamic ebb and flow of interconnected energies, a continuous dialogue between the inner landscape of the body and the outer rhythms of the natural world. It invites us to consider the subtle pathways that govern our vitality, the invisible currents that nourish our very being. It is a system built not on battling disease as an external invader, but on fostering balance, strengthening the body's inherent capacity for self-healing, nurturing the delicate harmony between yin and yang, and ensuring the smooth, unimpeded flow of that vital, life-giving qi. It whispers a timeless truth, that true wellness is not merely the absence of illness, but a vibrant, flourishing state of equilibrium, a gentle dance of all our intricate parts in perfect harmony. Tonight, we drift back through the gentle currents of history to a time before our modern understanding of medicine, exploring the enduring wisdom that sustained health and well-being for centuries. So, as the evening settles around us, perhaps you might dim the lights, find a comfortable position, and simply allow these words to wash over you, like a warm, slow river flowing through a quiet landscape. If, by the end, you find yourself feeling a little more rested, a little more at peace, then perhaps consider leaving a gentle like or subscribing to our channel, allowing us to continue sharing these tranquil journeys with you. Our journey tonight leads us far to the east, to the ancient land of India, where a profoundly beautiful system of healing blossomed thousands of years ago, a system known as Ayurveda. The very word itself, Ayurveda, whispers of deep understanding, translating from Sanskrit as, the science of life, or, the knowledge of life, hinting at its all-encompassing nature. It was not merely a collection of remedies, but a complete philosophy, a way of living designed to bring harmony to the individual and to their place within the vast tapestry of the universe. Imagine, if you will, a community nestled along a sacred river, the air thick with the scent of spices and incense, the murmur of ancient chants carried on a gentle breeze. Here, health was not seen as the absence of illness, but as a vibrant, dynamic balance, a constant dance between various forces within the body, mind, and spirit. This holistic approach, so central to Ayurveda, encouraged individuals to look inward, to observe their own unique constitution, and to understand how their daily choices in food, activity, and thought subtly influenced their well-being. It was an empowering system, placing the responsibility, and indeed the wisdom, directly into the hands of the individual. At the very heart of Ayurvedic wisdom lies the profound concept of the dashas. These are not static categories, but rather dynamic energies or humors, believed to govern all physiological and psychological processes within the body. There are three primary dashas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, each stemming from combinations of the five fundamental elements, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. The beauty of the dasha concept is its recognition of individuality. While all three dashas are present in every person, their unique proportions create a distinct energetic blueprint, known as one's prakriti, or constitution. Let us explore these dashas a little more deeply, allowing their characteristics to gently unfold before our mind's eye. Vata, composed of ether and air, is often described as the principle of movement. Think of the swiftness of thoughts, the circulation of blood, the rhythm of breathing, the pulse of nerve impulses. Individuals with a predominant Veda constitution might exhibit a slender build, a quick and creative mind, and perhaps a tendency towards dry skin or a restless sleep. Their energy might be erratic, at times boundless, at others easily depleted. When Veda becomes unbalanced, one might experience anxiety, insomnia, or digestive discomfort, feeling ungrounded, like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Then there is Pitta, born from the elements of fire and water. Pitta embodies the principle of transformation, of metabolism and digestion. It is the fire that digests our food, literally and metaphorically, allowing us to process experiences and assimilate knowledge. Those with a prominent Pitta dasha often possess a moderate build, keen intelligence, strong digestion, and perhaps a fiery disposition, expressing themselves with passion and precision. They might be natural leaders, driven and focused. An imbalanced Pitta, however, could manifest as irritation, inflammation, heartburn, or a tendency towards perfectionism, like an overly intense flame burning too brightly. And finally, we gently arrive at Kapha, formed from the elements of water and earth. Kapha represents structure, lubrication, and stability. It is the force that binds things together, nourishing the body, providing strength, and imparting a sense of calm and endurance. Individuals with a strong Kapha constitution tend to have a sturdy build, smooth skin, a serene demeanor, and a deeply compassionate nature. They are often thoughtful, patient, and methodical, like a calm, strong river flowing steadily. When Kapha falls out of balance, one might experience lethargy, congestion, weight gain, or a reluctance to embrace change, feeling heavy, like earth clinging to water. The goal of Ayurvedic practice was not to eliminate a dasha, but to bring them into their innate, harmonious balance, recognizing that each person's ideal state was unique. This intricate understanding of individual constitutions informed every aspect of treatment and daily living. There was no one-size-fits-all approach. What benefited one person might be detrimental to another, a profound wisdom that modern personalized medicine is only now beginning to rediscover. Diet, for example, was a cornerstone of Ayurvedic healing. Foods were not merely sustenance but were imbued with specific energies and qualities that could either balance or aggravate the dashas. A Veda-dominant person might be encouraged to favor warm, grounding, moist foods, like nourishing stews and root vegetables, while avoiding light, dry, or cold dishes. A Pitta individual might benefit from cooling, sweet, and slightly bitter foods, such as fresh fruits and green vegetables, to quell their inner fire. And a Kapha person might be advised to embrace pungent, bitter, and astringent flavors, like leafy greens, spices, and lighter meals, to stimulate their metabolism. The act of eating itself was a mindful ritual, meant to be savored, not rushed, with full attention paid to the senses and the body's subtle signals. Beyond diet, lifestyle played an equally vital role. Daily routines, known as dinacharya, were meticulously crafted to align with the natural rhythms of the day and the changing seasons. Waking with the sun, performing self-oil massages, abhyanga, to nourish the skin and pacify the nervous system, engaging in gentle exercise, meditating, and eating meals at regular intervals were all practices aimed at maintaining equilibrium. These rituals were not burdens, but rather acts of loving self-care, designed to bring a quiet discipline and a sense of sacredness to ordinary living. Herbal remedies formed another essential pillar of Ayurvedic treatment. The ancient texts, like the Charaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita, painstakingly catalogued thousands of plants, describing their energetic properties and their specific applications for various imbalances. Imagine wandering through an ancient apothecary, the air thick with the scent of turmeric, ashwagandha, triphala, and brahmi, each carefully selected and blended to create personalized formulations. These herbs were often taken as teas, powders, or infused oils, gently coaxing the body back towards its natural state of health, working in partnership with its inherent healing capacities rather than against them. And finally, the practice of yoga and pranayama, or breath work, was deeply intertwined with Ayurvedic wisdom. These disciplines were understood not just as physical exercises, but as powerful tools for unifying the mind, body, and spirit, influencing the dashas, and clearing energetic channels. Gentle movements, held with intention, combined with conscious, regulated breathing, could calm a restless vata, cool an overactive pitta, or invigorate a sluggish kapha. It was a recognition that true health extended far beyond the physical, reaching into the subtle realms of consciousness and spirit. The enduring legacy of Ayurveda is its timeless message, that we are not separate from nature, but an integral part of it, and that true well-being arises from living in harmony with our own unique inner nature and the rhythms of the world around us. It is a gentle reminder that health is a journey of continuous balance, self-awareness, and loving engagement with all aspects of our being. As we slowly drift away from this rich tapestry of ancient wisdom, allow the calming echoes of this holistic approach to settle within you, a quiet breath of connection to cycles of life, and the enduring quest for harmony. Tonight, as our journey through the annals of health and healing continues, we'll settle into a particularly rich and resonant chapter, one that speaks of deep wisdom passed through countless generations, a wisdom rooted in the very earth beneath our feet and the stars above. Get comfortable now, perhaps dimming your lights a little further, and allow yourself to gently unfurl as we explore the diverse and intricate healing practices of various indigenous peoples from across the globe. Should you find a quiet comfort in these words, please do consider sharing this peaceful moment with a gentle like or by subscribing to our channel, if you so desire. For millennia, long before the advent of pharmaceuticals or even microscopes, indigenous communities developed sophisticated and holistic approaches to well-being, systems that often defy our contemporary categories of medicine or spirituality, for in their understanding, these were inextricably woven together. These practices were not simply a collection of treatments for ailments, but rather comprehensive philosophies of living, deeply integrated with their cosmology, social structures, and profound reverence for the natural world. One of the most striking commonalities across these diverse healing systems is an intimate and unparalleled knowledge of local flora and fauna. Generations of careful observation, experimentation, and shared wisdom led to an encyclopedic understanding of the medicinal properties of plants. Imagine walking through a vibrant forest with an elder, their eyes discerning subtle variations in leaves, their hands gently touching bark, their voice softly recounting the specific uses of each botanical treasure. They knew which roots could reduce inflammation, which leaves could staunch bleeding, which berries could aid digestion, and which barks might soothe a fever. This wasn't merely rote memorization, it was an active relationship, a respectful reciprocity with the plant kingdom. The gathering of these plants was often accompanied by specific rituals, offerings, and prayers, acknowledging the spirit of the plant and respectfully seeking its assistance in healing. The preparation was equally precise, with specific methods for drying, pounding, infusing, or decocting, ensuring the maximum potency of the medicinal compounds. Consider, for a moment, the vast knowledge accumulated over centuries by the indigenous peoples of the Amazon rainforest. Their pharmacopoeia is incredibly rich, encompassing thousands of plants, many of which are now being studied by modern science for their potential health benefits. The Kichwa people, for example, have an intricate understanding of the plants in their territory, using specific species for everything from treating malaria to snake bites, from easing childbirth to fostering deep spiritual connection. Their understanding goes beyond mere chemical compounds. It includes an awareness of how different plants interact, how environmental factors influence their potency, and even the best times for harvesting, often tied to lunar cycles or seasonal changes. This sophisticated, green pharmacy was a living library, passed down from healer to apprentice, often through oral traditions and practical demonstration. Beyond botanical knowledge, indigenous healing systems frequently incorporated a deep understanding of animal behavior and their products. Animal fats, furs, bones, and even behaviors were observed and utilized for their perceived restorative properties. The venom of certain insects, carefully administered, might be used to stimulate the immune system, or the rich oils from marine mammals could be applied to soothe skin ailments. This holistic perspective embraced every element of their environment as a potential source of healing and balance. However, these systems extended far beyond the physical application of natural remedies. A profound characteristic was the integration of storytelling and ceremonial rituals, which served as powerful vehicles for healing often overlooked by Western medical paradigms. Storytelling, in particular, was an integral part of maintaining cultural memory, transmitting ethical values, and explaining the origins of disease and the path to recovery. A story might recount, for instance, a mythical hero's struggle with an illness, offering a narrative framework for understanding one's own suffering and inspiring resilience. The very act of listening to these stories could be deeply therapeutic, fostering a sense of connection, reducing isolation, and allowing the individual to contextualize their experience within a larger cultural tapestry. It provided meaning, a crucial element for psychological and emotional well-being. Ceremonial rituals, too, played a pivotal role in creating a sacred space for healing. These were not merely symbolic gestures but carefully orchestrated events designed to restore balance, both within the individual and between the individual and their community, and the individual and the spiritual realm. Such rituals might involve singing, drumming, dancing, chanting, purification rites, or the collective participation of the community. The rhythmic vibrations of a drum, for example, could induce altered states of consciousness, facilitating introspection and release. Chants, with their repetitive patterns, could be deeply meditative, helping to quiet the mind and alleviate anxiety. The smoke from sacred herbs, like sage or palo santo, common in many North American indigenous traditions, was believed to cleanse negative energies and purify the space, preparing it for healing. Consider the sweat lodge ceremony, an ancient and widespread practice among many indigenous peoples in North America. This ritual involves entering a small, dome-shaped lodge heated by hot stones, creating an intense, steam-filled environment. Participants engage in prayers, songs, and introspection, often for hours. The physical experience of the heat, combined with the spiritual focus, is believed to cleanse the body, mind, and spirit, flushing out toxins and renewing one's connection to the earth and the Creator. It's a profound act of purification and communal healing, a physical and spiritual reset. Another example can be found in the healing traditions of the Maori people of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Their concept of Maori, the life force or essence, is central to their healing practices. When Maori is diminished or out of balance, illness can manifest. Healers, or tohunga, employ a range of techniques including mirimiri, traditional massage, the use of specific plants, rango or rakau, and incantations or chants, karakia, all aimed at restoring the balance of Maori. Storytelling and the adherence to tikanga, customary practices, are also vital, upholding a collective sense of identity and well-being. The healing journey is often a communal affair, with family and community supporting the individual, reinforcing the idea that health is not merely an individual state but a reflection of the collective harmony. The role of the healer in these indigenous systems is also distinct from a modern doctor. Healers, often referred to as shamans, medicine people, or traditional healers, are not just practitioners of specific techniques, they are often seen as bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds. Their training is rigorous, encompassing years of apprenticeship, spiritual initiation, and deep communion with nature. They are expected to possess not only encyclopedic knowledge of remedies and rituals but also profound spiritual insight, intuition, and a strong moral compass. They often diagnose not just physical symptoms but also spiritual imbalances, emotional wounds, or disharmony within the community or environment, viewing these as root causes of illness. These healing systems also emphasize prevention, understanding that a balanced lifestyle, strong community ties, and respectful interaction with the environment were fundamental to maintaining good health. Diet, exercise, daily spiritual practices, and harmonious social relationships were considered integral medicines themselves. The very structure of many indigenous societies fostered these preventative measures, promoting a sense of belonging and collective responsibility, which are now recognized as crucial determinants of health and longevity. As we gently conclude our exploration of indigenous healing systems, we are reminded of the profound interconnectedness of all things, the human body, the natural world, the spiritual realm, and the community. These traditions offer a powerful testament to the enduring human capacity to find solace, wisdom, and healing within the intricate tapestry of life itself, a wisdom we can still learn much from today. Their approaches to health, steeped in millennia of observation and reverence, remain a vibrant and vital wellspring of ancient knowledge, echoing softly across the ages. Tonight, we drift back to a time when health was sought through practices that may feel both familiar and wonderfully distant. Let us settle into our most comfortable space, perhaps dim the lights a little, and allow the stories of the past to gently wash over us. Should you find tranquility in these words, a soft consideration of liking this video or subscribing to our channel would be deeply appreciated, but for now, simply relax. Our journey through the landscape of ancient healing brings us to a pervasive and comforting element, water. It has always been a fundamental part of life, a source of refreshment and sustenance, and a medium for purification. Across civilizations and throughout the ages, people instinctively understood the profound connection between water and well-being, long before the complexities of modern medicine unveiled its intricate biological pathways. They observed its effects, felt its soothing touch, and incorporated it into their healing rituals with a reverence that resonated deeply within their communities. From the earliest human settlements, the discovery of hot springs was often met with a sense of wonder, an acknowledgement of a natural phenomenon imbued with restorative power. Imagine, if you will, the early hunter-gatherers, weary from their treks, stumbling upon a pool of naturally heated water, its steam rising like an ethereal invitation into the cool air. The immediate sensation of warmth, permeating tired muscles and aching joints, must have been a revelation. These thermal waters, often rich in dissolved minerals from their subterranean journeys, were more than just warm baths, they were sanctuaries. The Romans, with their architectural ingenuity and disciplined approach to daily life, elevated these natural occurrences into grand public spaces. Their thermi were not merely bathing establishments but intricate social and healing complexes, where the waters, varying in temperature from tepid to scalding, were utilized for both physical cleansing and therapeutic treatment. Patrons would move through a series of rooms, from the frigidarium, cold bath, to the tepidarium, warm bath, and finally the caldarium, hot bath, a progression designed to stimulate the body, opening pores, and encouraging detoxification. The mineral content of these waters, sulfur, magnesium, calcium, was widely believed to directly contribute to their healing properties, easing skin ailments, alleviating rheumatic pains, and even assisting with respiratory conditions through the inhalation of mineral-rich steam. Beyond the grandeur of Roman baths, the simple act of immersion in flowing water held a particular significance. Rivers, streams, and lakes were not just sources of drinking water, they were seen as carriers of vitality. There are accounts from various cultures, from ancient Egypt to indigenous North American tribes, of individuals seeking out specific bodies of water, be it a sacred spring or a confluence of rivers, for their perceived healing energies. These places were often associated with spiritual deities or ancestral spirits, imbuing the physical act of bathing with a deeper, more profound meaning. The repeated dipping, the gentle current flowing over the skin, the quiet contemplation beside the water's edge, all contributed to a sense of renewal, both physical and psychological. Then there was the deliberate use of cold water, a practice that, while perhaps less immediately comfortable, was recognized for its invigorating and stimulating effects. The idea of the cold plunge, or a quick immersion in icy waters, has a long lineage. Northern European and Slavic traditions, in particular, embraced the cold bath as a means to build resilience, improve circulation, and enhance overall vitality. Picture a stark winter landscape, a small opening chopped in the ice of a frozen lake, and sturdy individuals braving the shock of the frigid water. This was not a punishment but a deliberate act of bracing the body, a method of shock therapy believed to awaken the internal systems, tighten the skin, and ward off illness. The immediate physiological response, the sharp intake of breath, the constriction of blood vessels followed by a rush of warmth, was understood as a cleansing of the inner self, a purification that went deeper than the skin. As centuries passed and understanding of the human body slowly evolved, these age-old practices began to be more systematically categorized under the umbrella of hydrotherapy. In the 18th and 19th centuries, figures like Vincent Priesnitz, a Silesian farmer often credited as the father of modern hydrotherapy, popularized a precise methodology for using water of various temperatures, applied in different ways, through compresses, showers, wraps, and full immersions, to treat a wide array of conditions. His methods, often involving cold water applications, were rooted in the belief that water could stimulate the body's natural healing mechanisms, drawing out impurities and restoring balance. Patients would travel to his water cure establishment seeking relief from conditions ranging from fevers and inflammation to nerve disorders and digestive complaints. The meticulous application of wet sheets, sitz baths, and targeted water jets became a recognized therapeutic approach, demonstrating a growing, though still rudimentary, understanding of how temperature and pressure could influence physiological responses. The emphasis on water's cleansing properties extended beyond internal health to hygiene and prevention. While not always universally accessible or consistently practiced, the understanding that washing with water could remove dirt, reduce odors, and prevent the spread of certain skin ailments was present in many ancient societies. The careful washing of wounds, the rinsing of fresh produce, the bathing of infants, these were simple, yet profoundly effective, measures that underscored water's role in maintaining a basic level of health, protecting against the more obvious forms of disease that festered in unsanitary conditions. So, whether it was the communal warmth of a Roman bath, the solitary contemplation by a healing spring, the bracing shock of a cold plunge, or the precise application of hydrotherapeutic techniques, water remained a constant, trusted ally in the human quest for health. Its gentle persistence, its transformative power, its undeniable connection to life itself, rendered it an indispensable element in the lexicon of pre-modern healing, a testament to the wisdom gleaned from observing nature and nurturing the body through its most fundamental offerings. The soft murmur of water continues to soothe us, a timeless echo of its ancient healing embrace. Tonight, we continue our gentle journey through the historical landscape of well-being, exploring the subtle ways humanity sought health, long before the complex tapestry of modern medicine had begun to weave itself. As you settle into your most comfortable space, perhaps dimming the lights, and allowing your thoughts to soften, know that if you find a quiet peace in these narratives, a subscribe or a gentle like would be a truly lovely gesture. We have arrived at a point in our narrative where the early flickering intuitions of contagion began to coalesce into more structured, albeit rudimentary, acts of prevention. It was a realization, often born from profound suffering, that some maladies possessed an uncanny ability to spread from one individual to another, or from one household to another, like an unseen, whispersome current. Before microscopes unveiled the minute architecture of disease, before laboratory cultures confirmed the presence of invisible pathogens, humanity possessed an inherent, often sorrowful, understanding that proximity to the ailing carried a palpable risk. This understanding was not gleaned from scientific papers or meticulously documented clinical trials, but rather from the poignant, repetitive observations of community life. A vibrant street could become strangely quiet after a sickness took hold in one home, the cheerful bustle replaced by a hushed apprehension, a knowing avoidance of its doors. This deep-seated intuition of contagion, an awareness that certain illnesses were not merely internal imbalances but rather something that could be transmitted, gave rise to some of the earliest, most fundamental forms of disease control. These early attempts at containment were often crude, sometimes harsh, yet they represented the nascent stirrings of a collective public health consciousness. The most prominent of these measures, one that echoes even into our own contemporary understanding, was the practice of separation. The sick were, quite simply, kept apart. This isolation, in its most basic form, might have been as simple as confining an individual to their bed within their own home, with family members exercising extreme caution. Perhaps a specific room was designated, its door a silent sentinel, marking the boundary between wellness and illness. Food might be left at the threshold, dishes collected with a long-handled tool, laundry handled with trepidation, perhaps even burned rather than washed. In more organized communities, particularly as populations grew and the threat of widespread epidemics became a devastating reality, these individual acts of separation began to evolve into more formalized, albeit still intuitive, policies. We can imagine the village elders, sitting in quiet deliberation, their faces etched with concern for their people, deciding to designate a specific dwelling, perhaps a hut at the edge of the settlement, for those afflicted. It was a difficult decision, fraught with emotional complexity, to separate a loved one from the comforting embrace of their familiar surroundings, yet it was often believed to be a necessary, albeit sorrowful, act of community preservation. The concept of quarantine, as a more structured and enforced period of isolation, has fascinatingly deep roots. The word itself, quarantine, speaks to this history, deriving from the Venetian dialect, quarantina, meaning 40 days. This term emerged during the Black Death in 14th-century Venice, a city acutely vulnerable to diseases arriving by sea. The Venetian authorities, noticing the devastating spread of the plague, enacted a decree requiring all incoming ships and their crews to anchor for a period of 40 days before being permitted to disembark or unload their goods. This seemingly arbitrary 40-day period was not based on a precise scientific understanding of disease incubation, which would of course come much, much later. Instead, it was likely influenced by a blend of practical observation, a cautious desire for an extended buffer, and perhaps even biblical interpretations, as the number 40 held symbolic significance in various ancient texts concerning purification and trials. Whether it was 30 days or 40, the core principle was clear: a period of waiting, a suspension of normal activity, to allow the disease to manifest itself or, hopefully, to pass. This maritime quarantine was a remarkably sophisticated early public health maneuver. It was an acknowledgement that disease could travel, could be carried invisibly, and that a period of controlled waiting outside the city's gates, or away from its bustling docks, could serve as a protective shield. Imagine those ships, bobbing gently in the lagoon, their crews patiently or perhaps impatiently enduring the waiting period, the city walls a silent, expectant observer. Beyond formal quarantine, there were numerous folk practices, born from this intuitive understanding of contagion, that sought to create barriers. The burning of fragrant herbs, like rosemary or juniper, was often enacted in the belief that the smoke would purify the air and thus, perhaps, drive away the unseen agents of sickness. While we now understand the specific microbial reasons for disease spread, the act of burning these aromatics, often with a deep cultural significance, served as a tangible and comforting ritual of protection. Similarly, the practice of burying the dead swiftly and deeply, or in designated areas away from living spaces, was not only a matter of respect but also an intuitive recognition that decaying bodies could be sources of further illness. The instinct to remove the source of contamination, even if the exact mechanism was unknown, was a powerful driver of these early sanitation practices. Even seemingly minor adjustments to daily life carried this thread of intuitive disease control. The simple act of avoiding shared eating utensils when someone in the household was ill, or the directive to keep windows open for fresh air, though often for reasons distinct from modern ventilation science, demonstrated a subtle sense of cause and effect. There was a quiet understanding that a contained environment, a shared item, or stale air might, in some inexplicable way, facilitate the spread of an ailment. These early forms of disease control were not always perfect, indeed they were often flawed and sometimes tragically misapplied. They could lead to social ostracism, to hardship for those separated from their communities, and they were often ineffective against diseases whose modes of transmission were not yet understood. Yet, they represent a profound and vital chapter in humanity's quest for health. They demonstrated a nascent understanding of interconnectedness, a dawning realization that the health of one individual could profoundly impact the well-being of the collective. It was an understanding born of observation, of sorrowful experience, and of the fundamental human desire to protect one another. These gentle, often unscientific, yet deeply intuitive acts of separation and containment, laid the quiet groundwork for the much more structured and scientifically rigorous public health interventions that would eventually emerge. They whisper to us across the centuries, these early attempts to control the unseen, reminding us of the enduring human capacity to adapt, to observe, and to protect, even in the face of profound mystery. Tonight, as we continue our gentle exploration of how people once nurtured their well-being in times long past, we will drift into the comforting embrace of storytelling. Perhaps you might find a soft blanket to pull closer, or simply allow your breath to deepen, and let the quiet currents of these words carry you. If, as our journey concludes tonight, you find a measure of peace and a gentle drifting towards slumber, a soft tap of the like button or a quiet subscription would be a most welcome gesture, helping others discover these tranquil moments too. Imagine, if you will, the slow descent of evening, the embers of a fire glowing softly, casting long, dancing shadows upon the cave walls, or perhaps the flickering oil lamp illuminating faces gathered in a humble dwelling. In these moments, when the world outside grew quiet and the challenges of the day receded, human voices would rise, weaving narratives that were far more than mere entertainment. These stories, these myths, these patient oral traditions, were the very vessels through which generations imparted their most precious knowledge, including the secrets of health, the understanding of illness, and the deep, abiding comfort that comes from shared wisdom. Long before the codification of medical textbooks, before the detailed biological diagrams and the sterile laboratories, the human inclination to comprehend the world, and indeed the workings of the human body and mind, found its most profound expression in narrative. A story could explain why a particular fever afflicted a village, attributing it perhaps to the displeasure of a river spirit, or to the breach of an ancient taboo. While such explanations may seem distant to our modern scientific understanding, their purpose was profoundly practical. They provided context, ascribed meaning to suffering, and, crucially, suggested a course of action. If the river spirit was angered, then propitiation might be sought, through offerings or ritual. If a taboo was broken, then communal atonement might be performed, restoring not only social harmony but also, in the communal belief, physical well-being. Consider the meticulous detail embedded within certain epic poems or lengthy sagas. Within the sweeping tales of heroes and deities, often lay precise descriptions of medicinal plants, their harvesting seasons, and their preparation. A grandmother, her voice a low and resonant hum, might recount the exploits of a brave hunter, and in the telling, casually mention how he staunched a bleeding wound with the crushed leaves of a specific plant found by the stream, or how he recovered from an exhausting journey by drinking a particular brew. These weren't overt lectures, they were embedded lessons, absorbed effortlessly by listeners who were immersed in the captivating flow of the story itself. The very structure of the narrative made the information digestible, memorable, and intimately connected to the fabric of their daily lives. Myths, too, served as powerful pedagogical tools. The story of a god or goddess associated with healing, for instance, might not only provide a figure of veneration but also embody principles of health. Perhaps a deity of fertility and growth would be linked to the well-being of mothers and infants, and the tales surrounding her would implicitly guide practices for safe childbirth or the nourishment of young children. The narratives often personified natural forces and human conditions, making the abstract concepts of disease, healing, and mortality tangible and comprehensible. A plague might be represented as a vengeful spirit, urging caution and respect for the natural world. A miraculous recovery might be attributed to divine intervention, instilling hope and reinforcing faith in traditional healers who acted as conduits to these divine powers. The soothing power of storytelling was not limited to the mere transmission of practical information, it played a vital role in providing psychological and emotional comfort, particularly in times of illness or distress. When a loved one was gravely ill, the shared act of listening to stories could draw the family closer, fostering a sense of communal support. The tales themselves, perhaps of courageous resilience against adversity, or of eventual triumph over hardship, could imbue the patient with a vital sense of hope and a belief in their own capacity for recovery. The rhythmic cadence of a storyteller's voice, the familiar narrative arcs, and the shared immersion in a communal world of meaning, all contributed to a profound sense of security and belonging. This, in itself, is a form of healing, a balm for the anxious mind and the weary spirit. Oral traditions, passed down with meticulous care from elder to younger, were the living libraries of societies without widespread written language. Each repetition of a story, each reenactment of a myth, reinforced the knowledge contained within it. The elders, recognized as the repositories of this wisdom, held a revered position, and their narratives carried immense authority and weight. They knew which plants cured which ailments, how to interpret dreams as omens of health or sickness, and the songs or incantations that might accompany a healing ritual. All of this knowledge was woven into the rich tapestry of their collective stories, ensuring its continuity across generations. The very act of listening to a story requires a form of mindful engagement, a gentle focusing of attention that can be deeply therapeutic. In a pre-modern world, devoid of the constant digital stimuli that vie for our attention today, the act of listening to a story unfold must have been a profound experience, drawing individuals away from their anxieties and into a shared, imaginative space. This collective journey offered not only knowledge but also emotional regulation, a collective processing of life's complexities, including the bewildering nature of illness and the inevitability of death. In essence, these narratives built a comprehensive worldview, a holistic cosmology where every aspect of life, from the planting of crops to the onset of fever, was interconnected and meaningful. Health was not merely the absence of disease, but a state of balance within this intricate web of relationships, with nature, with the spirit world, and with the community. Stories provided the map to navigate this world, offering guidance on how to maintain balance and how to restore it when it was lost. They were flexible, living documents, capable of adapting to new experiences, incorporating new remedies, and evolving with the collective understanding of the people. They offered not just remedies, but meaning, not just cures, but comfort, and not just facts, but a pathway to enduring wisdom, gently cradling society in their enduring embrace. And perhaps, as we reflect upon this ancient human practice, we might find ourselves drawing closer to our own stories, those quiet narratives that bring understanding and comfort into our own lives. Tonight, as the gentle quietness of the evening settles around us, we drift back to a time long past, a time when health was understood through different lenses, yet with an enduring wisdom that resonates even now. It is a journey we have taken together, exploring the myriad ways in which people, through centuries and across continents, sought to maintain their vitality and mend their ailments without the tools of modern science. If, by the end of our tranquil wanderings, you have found a measure of calm, perhaps a gentle nod of appreciation to this channel, with a quiet like or a soft consideration to subscribe, would be a kind gesture. As our soft journey through the annals of ancient well-being draws to a close tonight, we find ourselves in a reflective space, contemplating the enduring legacy of those who lived and healed before the advent of what we now consider modern medicine. It is a legacy woven with threads of deep observation, intricate understanding of the natural world, and an innate human desire for balance and restoration. We have seen how their practices, often dismissed as rudimentary or superstitious by earlier, more boastful periods of scientific progress, are now being revisited, re-evaluated, and in some cases, even embraced by contemporary well-being movements. Consider, for a moment, the foundational beliefs that underpin so much of ancient health philosophy. The emphasis on prevention, for example, shines through in countless traditions. From the meticulous dietary guidelines of certain ancient cultures to the regular physical exercises prescribed in others, the idea that one could actively cultivate health rather than merely react to illness was a central tenet. This proactive approach, so often overshadowed by a treatment-centric paradigm in recent centuries, is now experiencing a profound resurgence. The focus on nutrient-dense foods, the promotion of regular, gentle movement, and the understanding of the crucial role of restorative sleep, these are not new discoveries, but rather echoes of wisdom patiently gathered over millennia. The connection between mind and body, a concept now so widely accepted as psychosomatic in its influence, was implicitly understood and explicitly cultivated in many ancient healing systems. The tranquility fostered by meditation in Eastern traditions, the emotional catharsis sought through storytelling in indigenous practices, or the spiritual solace provided by rituals across various cultures, these were not mere embellishments to physical healing, but rather integral components of it. They recognized that an agitated spirit or a troubled mind could ripple through the body, disturbing its delicate equilibrium. Modern holistic health practices, with their emphasis on mental wellness, stress reduction, and mindful living, are, in essence, re-articulating this ancient insight, clothed in contemporary language and bolstered by new research. We can also observe the profound influence of the natural world in these historical practices. The use of herbs, roots, barks, and flowers was not haphazard, but often derived from generations of careful observation and experimentation. While the precise biochemical mechanisms were unknown, the therapeutic effects were meticulously catalogued through trial and error, passed down through oral traditions, and eventually inscribed in ancient texts. Today, as pharmacology seeks new compounds and as people seek natural alternatives, ethnobotany and herbal medicine are experiencing a renewed interest, revealing the sophisticated knowledge embedded within these ancient archives. The sheer variety of plants employed, the deep understanding of their seasonality, and the nuanced ways in which they were combined to address specific ailments speak to a profound and intimate relationship with the earth. Furthermore, the concept of individualized care, often hailed as a hallmark of modern personalized medicine, had its roots in many ancient systems. Healers would observe not just the symptoms, but the individual's constitution, their lifestyle, their environment, and their emotional state. Treatments were often tailored, reflecting an understanding that no two individuals experience illness in precisely the same way. This holistic and individualized approach stands in quiet contrast to more generalized treatments that sometimes characterized medicine in other periods. The current trend towards patient-centered care, where the individual's unique needs and preferences are paramount, is a gentle turning back to this ancient recognition of human diversity. The very foundations of medical inquiry, even before formalized science, were laid by those who sought to understand the body, its functions, and its pathologies. Anatomical observations, though sometimes limited by societal taboos, were meticulously recorded. Surgical procedures, though often rudimentary and painful, represented courageous attempts to intervene when natural healing seemed insufficient. The understanding of hygiene, even when unconnected to germ theory, led to practices that undoubtedly saved countless lives, such as the purification of water or the careful disposal of waste. These were the nascent seeds of scientific investigation, the earliest stirrings of a systematic approach to understanding health and disease, without which modern medicine could not have blossomed. So, as we gently bring our journey to its quiet conclusion, let us reflect not on what pre-modern health practices lacked, but on the enduring wisdom they contained. They remind us that well-being is a multifaceted tapestry, woven from physical vitality, mental serenity, emotional balance, and a harmonious connection with our environment. They speak to the incredible resilience of the human spirit in the face of illness, and the persistent human drive to understand, to heal, and to thrive. The legacy of ancient health is not a dusty collection of antiquated beliefs, but a living, breathing testament to the profound and timeless quest for well-being, a quest that continues to inform and inspire our path towards healthier, more balanced lives in the present day. It is a quiet melody, echoing from a distant past, reminding us of the enduring beauty in simplicity and the deep wisdom found in careful observation.